Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ensign's Log Live, celebrating the ending of our second season of the show. I am Jason Harding, aka Ensign Splunk, aka Ensign Barclay.
And I am Steve Shives, aka Ensign Johnson, aka Ensign Riker.
Uh-oh.
I can
I made
hear
a
you.
I made a critical error.
Yeah.
I have the show on in my ear, and now I'm deafening myself.
And
There
I
we go.
and
Thank
and I, I
Christ.
I could hear it too, so you might want to.
Everyone could
Yeah,
hear it. My
it's not.
fuck up. I'm done.
No, it's
No.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Sorry we didn't get to questions.
Just toss my desk over. It's over everything.
So yeah, here we are.
So what do you want?
We're doing this again. You called me. No,
I wasn't talking to you. I was talking to the audience.
Oh, the audience.
This is for them,
Oh,
not for us.
That's right. We're not.
Do we need more reasons to think we're great? No, we don't.
I just thought we could spend a little time together.
Don't we do that enough?
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
For two people who have never touched, we spend way too much time together.
That's true. So to everybody watching us live in the live chat, if you have questions about the show or about Star Trek or about us, I guess.
Yeah.
Whatever, we'll
Any question, try to keep it related to Star Trek. But
yeah. Try to, if it's not Star Trek related, maybe massage it a little and be like, no, okay.
Yeah. If I start answering questions about my family, I'm going to start to cry. So,
tell us about your relationship with your father.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like, I don't know.
Do you want me to? I mean, we're pretty close. I mean, there's not a whole lot of drama there.
It's like, why would you care? What about listening to our goofy Star Trek podcast makes you think, I wonder what his relationship with his dad is like?
Oh, yeah, that's true. But anyway, welcome, you guys. If you guys have questions, that'll be awesome. We're not answering any of Francois Lacomb's question. I'm singling you out. No, I'm kidding.
Francois just asked a question, too.
I'm kidding. Of course we will. Jeez Louise.
We will answer every question except those that I arbitrarily decide not to answer.
Okay, fine. So now you guys know. I'm willing to answer almost anything. Steve is going to bow out at some point.
I'm going to be like, I'm not answering that. No comment.
No, I'm not answering that. I'm not answering anything. So, Hi guys. This is a great chance to interact. So if you have a question, please send it our way. If you have a comment, send it our way. That would be good too.
Yeah, help build up our egos.
If you guys want to tell us what a mess season 2 was, because a lot happened. A lot happened in season 2.
It was a very busy season, wasn't it?
It was incredibly for those people who haven't watched it or listened to it.
Yeah, whatever medium we produce it in, I don't know.
See, it's an actual thing in my head, so I keep forgetting that it's audio only.
It's easy to picture it. Like it's easy for me to picture it too, because
yeah. I'll give you guys something. I was watching Picard to see if I could salvage an experience from it, and I think it was episode. Steve and I have a difference of opinion on Picard.
You take that shit to Red Letter Media if you want to complain about Picard.
But there's a scene in episode 5.
Yeah.
When a scary lady that looks exactly like a young Troy offers Bruce Maddox Tranya, and I started laughing because in my head Tranya has been forever changed into what we said it was in our show, which was fermented ejaculate.
Yes,
and so that's our highbrow addition to the canon of Star Trek is that. While everyone's drinking it, we can all giggle like little children.
Exactly. And I'm sure like the writers of that episode are like, oh, here's a cool little like deep pull that the Star Trek nerds will appreciate, and anybody who's listened to our show and remembers will be like, like we completely ruined that reference. We completely ruined that little piece of Star Trek lore for everybody who likes our show.
And I know that some people like thinking that the show is canon. And I also like that people think that we're an alt timeline.
Yeah.
We try to keep it as close to canon as possible without wrecking, everything, but we're about as good as the people who are in charge of Star Trek are. So
I view what we do in the same way that I would view like if we were writing like the novels or the comics where like we try to make it fit as much as possible in the established canon. But at the same time, if we have to color outside the lines a little bit, like, I mean, I don't give a shit about that. I'll go, completely ape shit. But
Steve, Steve is big on going ape shit and not giving a shit.
I'll do things. I've told you many times, if I did a Star Trek show, I would do shit intentionally just to piss off the fans.
I know, that's really great. Thanks.
But I mean, just like little things, just like little references that don't work, just so people would be like, blah,
during our improvs, there are so many times that I've had to stop Steve because he walked in and said, "Hey, did you know the captain's gay?" And I'm like, no.
Why not? They never said he wasn't.
I'm making that up. He's never done
I've never actually. Weirdly enough, when I am playing my role in our ridiculous improv Star Trek podcast, that's probably the most respectful of Star Trek canon that I ever am.
You're really respectful while we're doing it,
too. Because I try really hard to get things right, and if there's a reference that I want to make that I know ahead of time, based on our conversation beforehand, if we have some general idea of where that episode is going to go, and I might think like, oh, maybe I could talk about this or try to throw in a joke about that. I really do my homework if I can't remember and try to get it as right as I can.
Yeah. That's weird.
It is, because you would think I would just be like,
because you don't remember half of the plot from our own show.
You're Ensign.
You're like, there's an episode where you're like, who did name Baby? And I'm like, you were in the scene with him. Now, I'm not blaming Steve, because Steve doesn't edit the show. I edit the show. So by the time I'm done editing the show, I've listened to it like 7 times. So I'll have a better memory for what is actually, for the little things that what occurred. Steve remembers the big stuff.
Yeah, and to be fair, I mean, this is just the way it is. It's because we've done so many episodes. I mean, there are things that you don't remember too that you have to look up. If there's like I remember a couple of times like character names that were characters that we introduced like many episodes ago that had to pop back in and reappear, and neither one of us could remember their names.
Yeah, we were like, we're in the middle of improving a scene, and we'll be like,
what was his name?
What was his name? The courtroom scene.
Oh,
we had to look up those characters' names.
I remember we had to look up the pack lead who testified.
Let me ask you, do you remember his name now?
Oh fuck, no, I don't.
Plarb,
that's it, Plarb. One of my favorite characters you've ever done on the show.
Yeah, he really loves how dumb Plarb is.
Well, I love how guileless he is.
Yeah.
I love how he's so like he's not malicious. He's just completely without pretense. So like if you say, would you like to my favorite bit, it happened at least twice, I think, in our scene where I said, would you like, I'm doing the prosecutor, and I said, would you like to tell us about that? And Plarb would just go, no.
Yeah,
no. Completely like, no, not trying to be an asshole at all. Just like, no.
Now, I will readily admit my version of Plarb is based on a character from SCTV. They did a game show called Half Wits.
Oh, I love that sketch.
Joe Flaherty is playing a guy who just doesn't seem to know where he is.
I love Martin Short in that sketch. I love when they're going through the introductions and who is it's I can't think of his name.
Well, Levy is playing the host.
Eugene Levy is the host. Yeah, Eugene Levy is the host. And he's like, he's going to the Martin Short guy. And he's like, so you're working your way through school. Would that be graduate school? And he says,
no, high school, Alex.
I seem to be having a bit of trouble getting through high school. And then he says he wants to be a district court judge.
If you guys don't ask questions, this will deteriorate into us talking about other shows.
There have been some questions. Let me go through.
Okay, good.
There have been some questions.
Right.
Okay, so Francois Lecomte says, "Have I told you how much I liked the second season yet? Feel free to do that anytime.
If you do, great. We love hearing from you guys."
Here's a nice broad question that we may not be able to answer completely, partially because we don't completely know yet. What's in store for season 3? Any hints?
Well, let me put it to you this way. I had an idea of where season 2 was going to go, and it wound up going completely in totally different directions. when I sit down and try to think about what we're going to do, I want to relate it to the season. And as everyone knows, season 3 is considered the worst season for the original series, which I think means great things for us because it just goes batshit crazy. And when the show gets really crazy, there's a lot more for us to work from. But as far as what the characters are going to do, I have an idea, but I can't let you know what any of those ideas are. I haven't even told Steve yet.
Right.
Kind of like what I did last. I gave you like a general overview for season 2.
Yeah. Yeah, and you would let me know, like, there were a couple of big, like, turns in the overall story that you let me know about a couple weeks ahead of time. But yeah, generally,
like,
you didn't lay it out, like, you know.
Our
beat by
breakup
beat.
was completely unplanned.
Yeah.
The breakup part, that was completely unplanned. What else was there? There was a couple of things that it wasn't on my radar as far as where the show was going to go. I'm glad it was in there because I think it needed to happen for those two characters to grow. There was a lot of unsaid hostility from my character's part that, I can't have him turn into a Vulcan whenever he needs to speak his mind. And so
Right.
we need to get that settled. His mom Ruth Johnson featured a lot more this season than I had originally anticipated.
Yeah.
Mud and her getting together was not anticipated either. Some of the stuff just comes out during the improv.
Yeah.
And
well, and last season, that's where Baby came from.
yeah, and that's how Baby, we didn't actually have an overarching plot until Baby showed up. And I'm like, okay, well, we can't have him have a talking penis for the rest of the series. We need to have this go somewhere. And so now what we're doing is we have characters that we want to work on and resolve their overall plot lines. And Baby was last season. Spot was like the central focus. We jokingly called this season the search for Spot.
Right.
And we're going to be working towards having gratifying resolutions to the characters, because maybe we might be somewhere else after the last season of TOS.
Maybe
We'll start over with brand new characters.
You know what? The thing that I'm the most excited about season 3 is you said it already, that the show itself, the Star Trek itself, is so out there in season 3. And one of the things I like about our show is that often our characters are like the only people on the Enterprise who seem to notice how crazy everything is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we react to it in very different ways according to our characters, which I think is great. But like, we're the only, it seems like, everybody else on the actual Star Trek show is just sort of like, well, just another day at the office, giant space amoeba. What are you going to do? And we're the ones who are like, this is weird, right? Like this kind of shit doesn't just happen all the time, right?
What's great about our characters also is that if we get anything wrong, we're just a couple of ensigns.
Yeah, we don't know.
We don't know everything verbatim. We're not Spock.
No.
We can't remember everything, like, point for point.
If Spock makes some big continuity error,
Oh, well, he would never.
Well, then all you nerds have to run to your keyboards and try to figure it out. But if, two dipshits...
Oh, you mean like in Discovery?
Exactly. All the nerds had to run to the keyboards. Wait a minute. Okay, here's another question. This is from Norman Buchwald. If you ever do Picard, boy, this is way in the future.
I'll be 109. What are you talking about?
If we ever do Picard, which Rios hologram would you be? This is a great question.
Well, he only has the one, right?
I think he has at least 2 or 3, because he has there's the EMH, and then there's the emergency engineering hologram. And isn't there another one too that I can't think? Isn't there like a navigational one or something?
Which one is the one that witnessed the murder and doesn't say anything to anybody?
The EMH.
Oh, okay, great.
I think the EMH, yeah.
You'd think he would want to tell somebody that the lady stopped him from saving the dude's life.
I would. I would want to be the captain hologram, because Rios is a hologram too, right?
What?
I don't know.
He's not, because she had with the sexy the old they touch him. Shut up. He was down on the planet.
He's a but he's like he could have beamed down with a mobile emitter like the Doc from Voyager had, right? He could be a hologram. I don't think so. I honestly don't think that's it. But I mean,
I want to be the person that's left behind on Earth. That's who I want to be.
You want to be one of the Romulan housekeepers.
I would be the hologram in the background saying, "Can we get on with it, please?"
Yeah. Episode 6, some stuff finally started to happen. Sweet, thank you.
Can we please skip over anything that's happening on the Borg cube? And can we please skip over any interpersonal drama between anybody that's not Picard? If we need to pick up anybody else or go to some fucking planet, I don't care.
I would love if it turned out that, I mean, because we've talked before, the one thing we do agree about on the show is that the pacing has been a big problem, and but if they steered into it and started to troll us, so that like every episode they were like almost to the Borg cube, and then Picard snapped his fingers and remembered someone else he wanted to go pick up.
That's exactly what's happening right
Where
now.
he's like, "Oh, wait a minute, someone else."
Turn that fucking ship into a Winnebago, and it's at the whim of Grandpa, who's like, "Oh, I remember some people I know in Flagstaff. We're going there." And we're like, "We need to get."
Like, we'll be at the Borg cube in 10 minutes, Admiral. Oh no, take this exit.
Yeah,
no, get off here. Question for me from some random geek.
Okay.
Is Riker a fuckboy?
Oh Jesus.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So tell Leto Anor that at last I am forced to acknowledge that Riker is in fact a fuckboy.
I think the main difference between our two characters is that Splunk is a romantic.
Yeah.
And Riker really isn't.
No. Johnson,
whatever.
Yeah. Well, and you know what's so fun about that is that aspect of Riker / Johnson on our show is so 180 degrees different than me. Like, I am so not that when it comes to like relationships.
Don't lie to the nice people.
I'm a fuckboy too. Like, anybody would even believe that. Like, I could even pull that off. I'm not an actor.
Eventually, when your wife leaves you, we'll see exactly what kind of Steve pops out.
When we finish recording and I walk out into my empty apartment.
You're doing a live stream and some woman with ragged hair sits up and goes, something for breakfast. And you're like, yeah, whatever your name is. Go back there.
Look, just get whatever you want out of the fridge. I told you not to bother me. I'm working.
Wait, are you implying that I'm like my character?
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you.
I think you are different from your character as well. I think for one thing, your character is, at least from how I know you, your character is a lot more neurotic.
Yes,
than you
that's
are.
true.
Yeah.
I have a tendency to panic and foresee doom and gloom, and his character is the positive one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because he's overconfident.
Delusionally overconfident. Like, and it's like completely, and it's impenetrable. Like, he never learns. He never.
Yeah, nothing. Yeah. Oh boy.
He's never like, I've tried this like 5 times before and it's never worked. Maybe I shouldn't do this again. But he always does it again.
I'm surprised no one's ever commented on just how stunted both of our characters are, considering that we've established that they're both 50 at this point.
Yeah.
And they have not developed at all. I mean, we both have a good 20 years on our current captain.
That's right.
And we've both been in Starfleet for well over 30 years.
That's right.
And we have not developed as people a whole lot.
Yeah. Well, and I think, like, if you want to dig into our characters, like for your character, it might be that you've been on the Enterprise most of that time and you've sort of settled into a routine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And for my guy, it's that I've been just sort of drifting and floating, and I've just never really put forth much of an effort.
Right.
I've never been challenged and never really challenged myself. So
no. And that's what's fun about the show is that rather than just gloss over it, we kind of need the characters to develop a little bit and grow and change, or I'd go crazy. I don't like it. Even in comedy, your characters need to develop, or there's no sense of satisfaction that an audience will receive if they cannot respond in a human way and develop over a period of time. We've now been doing this show for 2 years. This is the end of the second season. And if we had been exactly the same from the first pre-spot, I would have to say.
Yeah.
Those first 4 episodes are pretty rough. We're still figuring out who our characters are. The 5th episode from season 1 is where we start to develop as individuals, and we definitely have more of you can see the differences between the two guys, right?
Yeah.
And we've been working on that to develop it. And then the whole reason we had the fight was because I just couldn't have them have this thing. This whole Riker has been a fuck boy with all of his potential girlfriends. Right. And just have it lie there forever and be a constant joke. It's going to come up again later, but I needed the two of them to hash that out and continue to work forward.
Well, because you eventually you would get to the point where if you're listening to it and you have and you decide to think critically about it for a second, you have to wonder, like, why are they friends?
Mm-hmm.
When your character knows that my character has behaved this way, like, for their entire relationship, like, why would they be friends after that? So you have to bring that out. And
it's because you're so charming.
Yeah, that's right. Here's a question. Here's a question that I get a lot from people when they ask me about the show. From Tristan Norris. Do you have plans to do the animated series?
The only problem with the animated series is they're very short episodes. They're only half an hour. I love the animated series. There are some really good stories in the animated series and some batshit crazy ones. I would love to be able to do an episode where we're talking about the gigantic Spock.
Oh, yeah.
What's the name of that episode? I can't remember.
Oh, the Infinite Vulcan.
Yeah, and to do other episodes like Sharper Than a Serpent's Tooth, and to do the return. Harry Mudd returns.
That's right. Yeah.
In that one, because we're really looking at not meeting Harry again, but we can, because after his last appearance in the animated series, he pretty much disappears like a fart in the wind.
Yeah.
As far as the series is concerned. So I'm still on the fence about it because I think 3 years in TOS is enough. And if we did the animated series, I think it's 2 seasons?
Yeah. Yeah, but in terms of number of episodes, it's equals out to about 1 season of TOS.
Is it 26?
It's something like that. Yeah, it's in the 20s.
Yeah, and we've both had discussions about it where it would be fun to be able to do these things, but I kind of want to go and really change the show after the 3rd season.
Yeah.
Not like change the characters, change what we're doing, but have a new environment and new things to play with, or I might get bored.
Right.
And that's bad for Steve. So
and hey, you know what? Some organizer of a Star Trek convention who's desperate for content can invite us to do a live show, and we can.
Yeah, we'd love to do a live show,
and we can do the animated series for a live show.
It'll give us an excuse to put on our TOS uniforms.
Hey.
And I can glue a horn to my dog, and we'll be good.
Yeah, well, we could. Yeah, we'll save some stuff. We'll keep it in the closet, and we're like, if they invited to do a live show, we'll be like, hey, we can do an animated series episode.
I think as we get closer to season 3, we're probably going to make a final decision as to what season 4 will look like.
Yeah.
But there's also a part of me that kind of really is looking forward to TNG.
Yeah, of course. And me too. I think that's sort of it's like you're pulling in 2 different directions, because like there is part of me I would love to get these guys onto the Enterprise D and play around in that environment.
Let's face facts. You want to get these guys. We both want to get these guys to DS9.
Well, yeah, ultimately.
Yeah. But I mean, the idea of these 2 fuck ups on the straight-laced, practically boring, Ramada Lounge that is the
Yeah.
Enterprise D.
Yeah, especially
I
the
really,
first like couple seasons where
Mhm.
it's literally like nothing interesting happens on the ship. It's always on the planet or
I've actually mused that we jump in season 3 and
we
not and
just
just skip the first two, but
yeah. There's stuff I mean there's stuff we can do in the first two seasons that will be interesting too. But but yeah, so yeah, I that's kind of what I've been saying, what I've been telling people too, that we're probably not going to do animated series at least not right after
we've
season 3 is up.
entertained doing the movies,
Yeah, yeah,
which uh, is harder because our characters do age. Our
yeah,
characters, have a finite lifespan, and of course we can come up with any kind of time traveling, dimension splitting hijinks for them to get them where they need to go. But the movies are a little bit. It would total 6 episodes,
right. It would be
and
like a mini season.
yeah, it would be like a mini season. And also, the great part about Star Trek, the television show, is that there is a lot of downtime where
Hmm.
there's space for our characters to exist. Sometimes there isn't, but sometimes there is. You'll notice that in some episodes, everything happens after the fact.
Right.
Sometimes it happens before the fact. And then if there's time within the plot of the show for it to be during, that's when we'll set it. But sometimes there's just so much going on during an episode of TOS that our characters can't comfortably live in the margins of the plot. So we will, tack it on either way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here's a question from She Says Stuff Loop. How did you guys meet, both in and out of character? That's a really interesting question.
You invited me to. I don't even know why you even thought of me. You invited me to review Man of Steel.
Man of Steel in a live stream, yeah. That was a
Yeah, in a live stream.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I went ahead and accepted it, and that's how we met. And then after that, I think after a few months after that, I said, do you want to do a movie review show? And we did that on YouTube a couple of times. And then we moved that to a podcast. And yeah, that was a million bajillion years ago.
Yeah, that was, yeah. Yeah, that's it. That was the Man of Steel live stream was the first thing we ever did together. But I mean, we knew each other. We knew of each other.
We knew of each other. Yeah, that's
because
true.
you were doing Opinionville and I was doing whatever the hell I do.
Whatever you were doing, yelling at a camera.
Yeah, and that was and as for in character, I don't think we've ever even talked about that.
What do you mean?
How Riker and Barclay met. I know they've known each other for a very, very long time.
So our show canon, we met in high school, like the first year of high school, like freshmen in high school, and that's how long we've been friends since then. So however many years that is, I mean, they met when they were 14 and they're now 50. So they've known each other. They've had long bits where they had a relationship, very much like Steve and I have a relationship, which is a subspace friendship.
Yeah.
Because I was on a starship and he was in prison. So, or doing security on Earth. He had never traveled anywhere. So, there was a brief period of time prior to my character joining the Enterprise with Robert April that I was stationed on Earth as a communications officer. And then, because I have to fill that out.
Yeah.
And then we had a bunch of stuff. There was the Klingon War, and there was a bunch of other stuff that kind of kept them apart. And I didn't serve during the Klingon War because I was on the Enterprise with Pike.
Yeah, so there you go.
So, yeah, then they were sent away for some stupid made-up reason.
They were on their 5-year mission.
Whatever.
I think Pike must have done like 3 or 4 5-year missions.
He did a few.
This is an easy question, I think, for both of us, especially for you. Is SCTV better than Saturday Night Live?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, in every conceivable way.
You know why? Because they could write sketches with endings. That's why.
That's a big one. Yeah. That's the same reason almost every sketch show that is better than SNL is better than SNL, because they write
Hmm.
actual sketches that have beginnings, middles, and ends.
Um, no, I mean, I'm SCTV is one of my favorite shows ever. And to say that I wasn't influenced by them is a complete and total lie.
Yeah.
I first saw it when I was, I don't know, geez, like 10 maybe. Staying up super late. It used to come out where I lived. It would come on after, before they moved to, I think, Showtime. They would come
Mhm.
on after Saturday Night Live, and I would just ignore Saturday Night Live altogether and just watch. I didn't even pick up on half the jokes. And that's one of the great things about SCTV is as you get older and you start watching it, you get more and more of the jokes and
Yeah.
more of the things that they're satirizing. So for me, SCTV. SNL, they may have some funny sketches every once in a while or some funny characters, but then they take that and run it right into the ground
Oh boy.
until it's not funny anymore.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's just my opinion. If people still love SNL, fantastic. But I haven't watched it in I don't know how long. I don't know.
The worst thing that can happen to a character on SNL is for people to laugh at it the first time, because that just know you're going to see that character 20 more times, and it's going to be worse and worse and worse every time. Will we see? This is a question from Miles Mulholland. Will we see Baby again before we reach TNG?
I don't think so.
I wouldn't think so either.
We kind of ended Baby's thing in this run and TOS run. To go back would be rehash, but I can't guarantee anything because, like I said, a lot of this is improvised. We have a kind of bone. We have a skeleton, not much
Yeah.
of one, and it's open to change. If there is a pressing need, or if I have a revelation that this is a great time for Baby to show up, then yeah, we might. But my gut feeling is no. There's a lot of things, funnily enough, that we need to accomplish in season 3, and that might take up the. It's a short season, and we got to wrap up a few things. Like is Steve's character going to live?
That's important. You're not.
So yeah.
We're not really going to kill me, are we?
By the way, I'm putting this out here now. Someone says we really need a woman on the show. Steve and I have known that since season 1.
Since the beginning. Yeah.
Since the beginning, we have looked and failed to find someone who is willing to be as stupid as we are on this show. Because it's a tough sell. You need to know Star Trek, and you need to be a good improviser. And if you guys know anybody, or if you think that you're that person, please let us know. Please.
Send a self-addressed stamped envelope to. Yeah.
You guys know why Tina has a robot voice, and it's because we couldn't find a woman to play Tina.
It's called a workaround.
I held off the Tina reveal for so long because I was hoping that we were going to land somebody, and we just haven't been able to do it yet. So
Yeah.
if you guys know somebody, or if you think that's you, please let us know. This has been a sausage fest for far too long.
Indeed.
And Steve and I are sick of each other.
Well,
and someone has to mediate our
Please.
arguments.
Well, it's like it's not just the fact that we would like to have a woman appear on the show just because it's not, we don't like the idea of just being two guys all the time. It's also it's very creatively limiting as well. I mean,
it is very creatively limiting.
Yeah, there are characters we would love to bring in, explicitly on the show to have us interact with that we just can't do.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. How are we going to be able to do an entire subplot of a love story between Steve and Loxana Troy if we don't have a woman?
Not the love story I pitched, by the way, but
No, the one he pitched was with Jordy, I think.
yeah, with Jordy, and I was
Why has so much troubles with women on the show?
because I break his heart in season 1.
Goes running to the holodeck.
Yeah, exactly. Here's something. This is a comment from Seal 0626. We don't usually think about this consciously when we're doing the show, but Seal 0626 says, "I love the positive masculinity you guys portray in the show."
Well, I think that's from us. I think that's mostly just us for the
Yeah.
most part. I mean, I'm not going to say that I'm positively. I don't do anything. I was raised by lesbians, everybody, so I don't know if that had anything to do with that. But I do know that it has changed me as a person, and it kind of I share a lot in common with Barclay, aka Splunk. A lot of the storylines from him about his parents and everything else have been modified to Vulcans and stuff like that. I'm a quarter Filipino. He's a quarter Vulcan.
Right.
He has a grandmother that is Vulcan. I have a grandmother that is Filipino. And so I kind of mix that kind of cultural stuff up. So I have it's more readily accessible when I'm playing Barclay. But as far as thank you for that, I don't know, Steve. How do you feel?
It's one of it's one of those things that when I see comments like that, it makes me feel good. It makes me feel like we're on the right track. Like it's nothing, and it's even more of a compliment because it's nothing that we've ever talked about.
No, we don't. We didn't sit down and go, okay, here's what we're going to do. It's just the nature of the characters.
Yeah.
We never really think about, oh, we better be politically correct, or we better be this, or we better be that. It's just I think it has a lot to do with, one, what we think is funny.
Yeah.
And two, we can't have our characters be complete assholes because that's difficult for people to they can't relate to those types of people, right? Like if my character had been when his emotions are out of control, when he stops taking the genetic suppressors, if that had been my character through this whole show, you wouldn't have made it to season 10, I don't think.
No.
And I would have bashed my brains out. But thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's a really nice compliment. Okay, this is a good one from some random geek. Worst Star Trek movie.
Of all of them?
Of all of them, worst. That's what it says. Just worst Star Trek movie. So.
I agree with you.
Oh, Nemesis.
Yeah, it's Nemesis.
Yeah.
I don't know what they were thinking. Well, I do. I do kind of know what they were thinking. They were like, we're gonna make a Wrath of Khan and do it wrong. And just have a couple of really laugh out loud, stupid moments. The picture thing is where I nearly stopped watching the movie, is when he's looking at a picture of himself as a cadet and he's got a shaved head.
He's bald. Yes.
For no reason other than the producers thought that we were so stupid that we would not recognize, oh, that's little Picard because he's got a bald head. It's stupid. What if they cut to a picture of Riker when he was in the academy and he's 12 years old and he has a full beard? That's the same fucking thing. It doesn't. I didn't like it. It's a bummer of a movie. It's a bummer of a way to end that series.
Yeah.
I mean, in the TOS movies, the last movie, they're flying off into the sunset. They sign their name on the movie, and it's done.
It's such a good, Star Trek 6 is such a good, like, final episode for Captain Kirk and the original versions of those characters. And it's like, and like TNG got that too with the last episode of the show with All Good Things.
With All Good Things, it was done. What they didn't allow was time.
Yeah.
They didn't allow enough time between the end of their show and their movie for us to miss them. And that's really important because I'm going to say the TNG characters are very bland. And don't get me wrong, I love them all, but they're very bland. Yeah. There's no darkness about them. They were very Gene Roddenberry, where if people had problems, it was done by the end of the episode, but no one had any long-lasting stuff except for, I guess, Picard, who still has Borg nightmares, even 25 years after he was done with the whole Borg thing.
And the thing with Picard's Borg trauma is that the thing with really, to be fair, with trauma experienced by any TNG character, it only comes up when there's a story reason for it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I mean, that's not just Picard. That's, you know, pretty much anybody. If there's a reason to, like, you know, oh yeah, didn't Worf go through some shit? Like, yeah, sure, let's bring that up again. You
Yeah,
know,
whatever. Yeah. Hey, didn't Riker get kidnapped and like experimented on by aliens all those times?
yeah,
Oh, I guess he's fine now. Hey,
he's
didn't
okay.
Riker just lose the love of his life on that planet where everyone was androgynous? Oh, I guess he's fine now.
He's okay.
Oh, hey, didn't Riker just discover that he has an identical twin replica because of a transporter accident? Oh, I guess he's fine now.
He's fine now. I would love now. See, the upcoming episode. No major spoilers, but it's like it's in the trailer, so this isn't that big of a spoiler. But the next episode of Picard is the one where Riker is actually in it. And
Which Riker is it?
that, what a twist! They're obviously not going to do this, but I would love if Picard finds Riker after all these years. He hasn't seen him for a long time, and Riker is just a total fucking mess because all this shit that he has experienced on the Enterprise has finally caught up to him.
Oh yeah,
And he's just like living in a cabin on some planet somewhere, just
you
all by
know
himself.
that him and Deanna are married or something. They can't. Here's the problem. Okay, we're going to talk about Picard now.
Okay, no spoilers.
Just for a second. Just for a second.
Yeah, no spoilers, but yes.
They really should have had the entire cast, and they really should have been doing stuff. We should have been able to see change. You know, in the what are they up to now kind of deal.
Yeah.
And instead, we got introduced to all these characters that I don't care about, except for his caretakers. They seemed interesting, but
Yeah.
I mean, they're not on the ship with him now, so I guess they're dead or whatever. And
as I think I said to you in a conversation a couple weeks ago, I think the main problem with that is that they teased characters coming back before the show started, and then the way they plotted it, it turned out that the old characters weren't going to show up until relatively late. So it's easy to get impatient. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's if you know that Seven of Nine is coming, if you know that Riker is coming, it's a little
if Geordie LaForge, Data's best friend, is not in a show that has so much to do about Data in this Picard series, I'm going to walk away. Because it means they did not pay attention. One of my biggest problems is Picard and Data were close, but not so close that Picard would be having nightmares about, having dreams and stuff about Data, 25 years later. That would be Geordie.
You can't tell him his experience.
I can tell him whatever I want to.
I think the season is going to end with a dissolve to LeVar Burton closing a book and resting it on his lap.
Please don't do this.
Anyway, you know where I'm going. I don't have to say it.
And he says, "You don't have to take my word for it."
There you go. See, I don't have to say it.
He should have been the doctor at the Daystrom Institute instead of that blonde lady.
Dr. Geordie LaForge.
Yeah.
Master of robots.
Master of robots, exactly.
My wife left me and I became a master of robots.
What wife?
Well, Dr. Leia Brahms, of course.
That is in an alternate reality that Q showed him. That's not canon.
The hologram of Dr. Leia Brahms that he marries. That's my canon.
Picard should have been an archaeologist. Geordie should have been working at the Daystrom Institute. The one that turns him down should have been Admiral Riker.
Oh,
not mean lady.
That would hurt. That would hurt. But Riker still should have said the fucking hubris.
Exactly.
Give Riker the F-bomb. That's what I say.
By making those casting changes, you just made the show a lot more interesting. Picard could have said, "I'm not responsible for what happened with Deanna," and then that would have been it.
Can you imagine, though? I mean, I'm not necessarily saying that any of this would be bad, but can you imagine? I mean, we both know there is a certain segment of the fan base that would have hated no matter anything they did.
Oh well, you can't do anything without the fan base hating what you're doing.
And if they had done a scene where Riker was the admiral who turned down Picard, these same joyless assholes who are just reflexively shitting on the show would have hated that as much as they hate the mean admiral lady who, said the sheer fucking hubris. Riker
Such a
wouldn't do
memorable,
that.
such a memorable character. Mean Admiral
Mean
Lady.
Admiral Lady. I believe that is her name in the script. I think it's Admiral
Sure.
Clancy. It's Admiral Clancy actually.
Whatever.
But yeah, I mean, if they would have been like, Riker wouldn't do that. Riker and Picard were close. Riker wouldn't talk to him that way. Like
Whatever.
Yeah.
Next question.
Just make it the Riker show. Make him doing woodworking.
Make it the Riker show. It's This Old House with Will Riker.
Exactly. Oh yes. Actually, there's a story coming up in those ridiculous action figure Star Trek comics I make, where at some point I'm going to have Chief O'Brien come in, and he's going to be hosting a Star Trek version of This Old House called This Old Space Station. And that's how I'm going to bring in Chief O'Brien. But anyway,
he does have his sleeves rolled up all the time.
That's right, exactly. He's practically the Bob Vila of the 24th century.
We're killing our reps.
I know.
We're killing our reputations.
I love This Old House so much. Okay, so question
we should go into the long screed I roasted Steve about This Old House when they're restoring a plantation house.
Oh shit, yes.
I was like, you watched that?
Yeah, I did. I threw the remote at the TV and said, no, I will
We're now calling them hospitality quarters.
Technically, it wasn't a plantation house. It was a normal house with slave quarters added to the back. So
yeah. I fell down the stairs. It's not my fault. It's fine. I'm clumsy. I had my eye on a doorknob. I fell down.
Because slavery was that pervasive that just normal people who didn't even own plantations still had to have slave houses. Anyway, it was just wealthy landowners.
Right.
How has Ensign Riker survived for so long as a red shirt? Of course, we could say the same thing about Ensign Barclay, too, because we're both red shirts.
Yeah.
Well, I know
So,
for the joke for my guy originally was that I never went off the ship.
Yeah, and also he's been on Earth and in prison.
Yeah, that's yeah.
So there's that. Also, whenever people bring up the red shirt thing, they never include Uhura or Scotty,
That's true.
who are both red shirts, and they survived all the way to the end of the series. And also, someone did a mathematical computation of the number of red shirts that have died through the period through TOS. And I don't know if they included TNG, but through that, they calculated that it was actually safer to be a red shirt than it was to be, in operations or in command. So we're fine. But if you want a better answer, dumb luck.
Exactly.
Dumb luck could have been the name of this show, because we don't usually save ourselves.
No.
There's a lot of dumb luck as far as our two characters are concerned. So, and large periods of nothing.
Yeah. And, the dumb luck thing works really well, I think. Or at least it works better in comedy because there's sort of an absurdity about everything that we do. But that is, as I think I've told you before, like that in drama shows and action shows, like that, the hero surviving through no ingenuity of their own is like my least favorite trope. Like, there'll be there's an episode of MacGyver where he's finally trapped and there's no way he can escape. He can't think his way out. And then he survives because like the villain lets him live to prove a point. And I hate that.
We're 52 minutes in and we got our first MacGyver reference.
MacGyver, a classic MacGyver. I got nothing against the new MacGyver. It's just not my thing, but classic MacGyver. Yeah.
I had an answer and then Steve had to say MacGyver and a joke slipped in and replaced what I had to say.
I'm sorry.
I can't remember. I'm an old grandpa man. You can't. So yeah, whatever. Something.
Well, no, you said it. You said dumb luck, and there's a lot of times when nothing's happening, and
Oh yeah, and also, that reminds me. My character is a communications officer,
right?
An internal communications officer. What he's gonna do in TNG, I don't fucking know because they don't even have those on the ship. So he might actually wind up becoming. Because here's the thing: we won't be red shirts.
Right, we'll be gold shirts.
We'll be gold shirts. But my character is fairly secure unless the ship explodes.
Right. Yeah.
And you guys will have noticed that when I am sent on an away mission, things try to kill me.
Oh, yes. Um,
All right.
Here's a question from Bryce Montgomery. Any plans to include the mirror universe?
Funny, we just talked about
We
that.
were talking about that just before we started. Yeah.
So mirror universe stuff really pops up in DS9 a lot.
Yeah. Big time.
Um, and I kind of toyed around with it in the last season and this season, but this season 2 was really crowded already. And so if we're going to do it, we're going to do it so that it's over a period of a few episodes. And we, we don't have any problem taking things from the other series and putting them into this one while we're doing TNG. We'll pull from lots of stuff. We've dropped Discovery Easter eggs. We've dropped TNG Easter eggs, DS9 Easter. We will pull from all of the content that we can. And so, am I ruling it out? Nope. But we have had discussions about it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
there are so many. Like, that's one of the great things about Star Trek, and the fact that it's been around for so long and has been remade in so many different ways. Like, it's such a huge sandbox to play in, and you like.
Yeah.
I think we eventually would love to play in every corner of the sandbox.
Yeah.
This one is a comment from Practical Magic 9. There are many times I hear the Three Stooges music when listening to the podcast. I'll take that as a compliment.
I'll take that as a compliment too.
Yeah. Here's one from Seal0626 again, directed to me. Would you quit in protest if it looked like you were going on to Voyager? Absolutely not. I would love to do
No, because here's the thing: we're mean.
I would, if we do the show long enough that we have to transition onto Voyager somehow, I would love that. I would love that.
Yeah.
Even though, Voyager is my least favorite Star Trek. It doesn't mean that I hate it. I mean, it's just not the one that I'm probably going to want to watch most of the time. And I don't think it's a very good show overall, but it's not like I hate it.
Right.
know?
Right. I mean, here's the thing. I legitimately stopped watching it. But I don't loathe the show at all. Oh, and we borrowed from Enterprise too.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
The planet, the moon that we visit when we're going to go off and find a spot where we're trying to get a ship. That's
an Enterprise.
That's an Enterprise pull.
Yeah, totally.
But I mean, if this show is still running and we wind up on Voyager, we'll have fun. I mean, it'll definitely be fun. There's a lot there to pull from. So yeah, no, I won't hate it.
No, I mean, part of what we've always done on the show is poking fun at Star Trek.
Yeah,
and
just a little.
And there's so much to poke fun of on Voyager.
Yes, there is.
There's so much. I mean, I will say this: we would probably, and I know I probably would. I would have to moderate myself so that the show doesn't become too mean-spirited, like toward the parent show. Like, I wouldn't want it to just be, episode after episode where we're just pointing out how much we think Voyager is a shitty series.
Oh, we wouldn't let that enter into.
No, I don't. But there's plenty of material.
I mean, our character, we base what we do on how our characters are reacting to what's presented. And so, Voyager for our characters would. Okay, so here's the problem with Voyager. We'll be stuck on that ship for a really long time. So, and who knows? Maybe there'll be another Star Trek for us to go after Voyager, right?
Yeah.
I don't think we'll wind up in Picard if we're actually still doing the show at that time. Simply because Picard is such a singular. It's appropriately named.
Right.
And what would our characters be doing that has anything to do with any of the other characters? If they do something later where all the characters are involved, then great. But, where are we going to be? Where are we going to show up? Are we going to be on Dream Cloud or whatever the name of that fucking pop-up city was?
Well, I was
Free Cloud. Is that what it's called? Free Cloud.
Free Cloud.
Remember all the discussions on TOS about, hey, let's go to Free Cloud.
Hey, the Cardassians never existed until they just made them up for a TNG episode. So
They existed in between.
So did
Then we
Free
had
Cloud.
that war with them.
So did Free Cloud. I will say, I've even before Picard, I thought like if we ever get to this point, if we're still doing the show and like we've run through every other show and we get to Discovery would be a challenge for us just because of the way the show is written, like because it's a season long story arc and there isn't a lot of, there aren't as many spaces in between where we could fit in.
I'm there already.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, it would be challenging for our timeline. We'd have to figure something out. But just the way the show is formatted, it would be challenging. And Picard, yeah.
I think it would be fun, actually, if our characters have to run into our previous characters. That would be fun.
Yeah.
As we fuck up the timeline some more.
Hey, yay. That's what Star Trek heroes do. They fuck up the timeline.
That's true.
Here's a question from Josh, the NES nerd 11. Actually, it's more of a comment. And this,
Okay.
oh boy, this is a great obscure reference. You folks need a gay R2D2 and to fight a giant spider in the 3rd season. Thank you very much for that amazingly nerdy reference.
I would love to have an R2D2. Oh God, I would love to have a robot. I wish we could have kept Nomad around, but he died. But I love Nomad. When Nomad was on the show, I thought he was just this nosy, curious about things that are completely inappropriate. I loved him, but they had to go blow him up in the regular show, so we couldn't keep him around.
Yeah.
Sure, I'll fight a giant spider. Why not?
We have to in the 3rd act.
It depends on which one you want. Do you want the giant spider they didn't use in Superman Lives, or do you want me to fight the giant spider that was in fucking Wild Wild West?
Wild Wild West. With
or
Kenneth
Shelob?
Branagh.
Yeah. Do you want me to fight Shelob? I'll do it.
This is a good one. I'll get from She Says Stuff Loop. What have been some of your own favorite episodes of the podcast?
Oh, our own favorite episodes?
Yeah, our own favorite episodes, yeah.
Let's see. Charlie, starting early. The Charlie episode.
That was a good one. And then
the Charlie episode was the beginning of the change for our show.
Yeah.
The Spot, when we first find Spot.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite episodes.
That's an early one too, yeah.
Let's see. I love them all. They're all my little children.
I remember really liking the Pleasure Planet one.
The Pleasure Planet one's fun. When we have an opportunity to really, really fuck up canon and then attempt not to, the one where a sick Barclay is talking to the Gorn lieutenant.
Oh, that's such a good one. I remember that one. Yes.
Mm-hmm. The Tranya episode, the notorious Tranya episode. There's a lot. There's
the Balance of Terror one where we play the Romulans for most.
No,
of it.
yeah, when we're playing the Romulans for most of it, I really like the Romulan characters that we've created, and they have a tendency to stay alive too.
Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm. There was another one, and I can't. There's a lot of them, to be quite honest. I can't pin down which episode it is, but it's when we have the dawning realization that the constellation is filled with crazy people.
Yeah, the whole Constellation story arc I really, really loved.
Yeah. And some things are like certain bits, like when excuse me, Riker finds out that they actually wanted Spot to join the Constellation.
Oh, that is such a great bit.
And then the person that visits is Hephaestus from the Roman Emperor episode, and Hephaestus commiserates with him because he's a loser too, and he's like, us losers have to stick together. Anything that really kind of damages Riker's ego a lot.
Yeah.
are things that I really really enjoy.
My
I think what
I was just gonna agree with my favorite bits to perform are almost always the ones where Riker's intelligence is disrespected, because I love playing his wounded like outrage.
Mhm.
And yeah, that whole bit where he thought he was being recruited for Section 31, and when
Mhm.
we were playing, that's such a classic like farce bit, and oh, I
Mhm.
love doing that. I love doing that.
And the low stakes table on Triskelion.
That was good. Oh, that was good too.
And that was all happened by accident. We had broken up. And I was like, how are we going to get them back together? And then that whole thing about Triskelion and them making up while fighting
Yeah.
was one of my favorite things. Being able to do the color commentary on Triskelion, having the brains bicker and argue with each other. The ridiculousness of Triskelion itself was the be able to satirize that by creating like a low stakes table and
Yeah.
making the world bigger than 5 people.
Yeah.
And yeah, so yeah, that's I would say from this season that's one of my favorites.
And the incredibly dark moment of having my pet Tribble get smashed in that
Well, yeah,
game. I
yeah.
love
So
that.
that also
Yeah.
was not planned. It was not
No.
planned to kill the Tribble.
No.
The Tribble was going to become a cast member, and I said, "Oh, it'd be so funny if this was to the death," and I just threw that in there.
Oh my God, little Jason. Yeah. Is producer Rick Berman the reason conservatives love Star Trek? If not, why do conservatives love Star Trek?
Oh, I wouldn't say that it's well.
It's not
Okay,
all Rick's
so
fault.
it's not all Rick's fault, but a lot of it. Let's put it this way: when he had his hands off Star Trek got really good, and then when he put him back on, Star Trek got Enterprise, and so I don't think that's the reason why. I think it's just how people approach. People can approach Star Trek in any number of different ways and take away from it what they want. And so while we watch Star Trek, we see, okay, these are, they Earth is a paradise. There's no discrimination. There's no war. It's just, if you look at it objectively, it's a socialist nightmare for people who like money and power and things like that. And it's kind of the opposite of that. But most of the stories don't take place on Earth.
Right.
They take place in space. One of the problems, Gene Roddenberry approached it this way. We've straightened our shit out. Any of the problems that pop up, it pops up on other planets. And one of the problems of that is that when you make all of those problems when you make them from someone else, they're aliens that are having these problems. We're not worried about ourselves because it's the Cardassians, right?
Right.
You can watch that and not pick up on the analogy and just go, oh, they're the bad guys and we're the good guys, right?
Yeah.
And not recognize that they're making an analogy. Like all of Deep Space Nine was about Nazis and the Holocaust for the most part. And it also has things about terrorism and, who you were when you were being occupied is not who you necessarily have to be when you're not. There's a lot of that kind of stuff in there. And it's easy to go, well, those are just the Cardassians. They're not Nazis, they're Cardassians. And so I think that's how some people will approach it. And when someone tells them, well, it's a very liberal angle to take at some things, they will react negatively because they never viewed the show that way. And, that's the inherent risk when you make an alien group this thing. All the Ferengi are these greedy, evil creatures. They're not analogies of corporate greed necessarily. Right. I disagree with a lot of people who say, oh, well, you know what, they're space Jews or they're, some other nationality on Earth. It's pretty straightforward that they represent the greed, the kind of corporate greed, rather than a commentary on an entire race of people on Earth. And you can approach it that way and not recognize that what they're portraying is something that you believe in necessarily. Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the reasons why. Also, I think a lot of conservatives that are on YouTube making videos about why stuff is bad are doing it to get views. I
Yeah.
don't know how invested they are into the show. It's kind of difficult to really. One of the problems with the internet is you can't really know who's doing something for views because they put a headline up there, why X and X sucks, or why you'll never hear them say, here's why it's not liberal.
Right.
I haven't seen a whole lot of videos. They just complain about why it's now liberal without citing examples of Star Trek later. They go on
Right.
they go on a far right tirade, and I don't know how much of that is just to get eyes on their videos, or if it's something that they genuinely believe. So, I've met conservatives that like Star Trek. So
So have I. Many. There are many
yeah,
people. My favorite is I would my answer would be almost identical to what you just said. So I would also just add my favorite complaint is when people complain that Star Trek is too preachy now.
yeah,
Like
that's a weird complaint.
that's weird. That's one of the time because you my like the really my smart ass glib answer to the question would be that they don't pay attention to the show, and that's why conservatives like it. But that's not entirely fair because what you said I think
Mm-hmm.
is a better answer. But in terms of the people complaining about how it's too preachy now as opposed to then, that to me seems like you just weren't paying attention to the show. I mean,
Picard only needed a hello to start a monologue.
oh my God. Yeah. And it was, yeah, there was, I mean, as much as I love TNG, and I love TNG so much, but TNG at times was such a smug, self righteous show. And it didn't bother me, and it still doesn't bother me that much because I usually agree with the message that it's trying to send. But in terms of the way the message is delivered, there's so much like white liberal smugness in that show. And,
Mm-hmm.
to say that it only recently got preachy is like, I don't think the newer shows are all that preachy, really. I mean,
No,
it's
no.
at least not in the same way. I mean, you can say
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of political subtext to them, but I
Yeah,
mean, you don't have characters delivering self-righteous monologues
no,
nearly as often as you did with TNG or even TOS.
no. Picard would get indignant if you spilled a cup of coffee in front of him. And
How
up here
dare
comes the
you?
monologue.
Tea is a precious resource in this galaxy. Just because it comes out of a magic hole in the wall doesn't mean we shouldn't cherish it.
He practices them, right? He practices them in front of Livingston.
Yes, the
He
fish.
doesn't notice that Livingston goes behind the coral in his tank.
Where's the fish going? I'm not done yet. Well, he can still hear me. Here's the opposite of a question we were just asked. What's the best Star Trek movie out of all of them?
Oh, well, both of Steve and I agree. It's Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan.
Yeah, yeah, Wrath of Khan.
Mhm.
The only serious competition in my mind for Wrath of Khan is Star Trek Six because I really really love Star Trek
I know
Six
how
too.
much you love Star Trek 6.
But I would go Wrath of Khan. I think. Yeah.
I think Wrath of Khan, I like Star Trek 6, but believe it or not, I love Star Trek the Motion Picture
Yeah,
a little
yeah.
bit more than that. Um, Simply because the ship looks so goddamn good. So here's the thing: if we're picking favorites, the Enterprise, the ship itself from Star Trek, the motion picture forward, right? I never liked the Enterprise D. The
Yeah.
Enterprise D looked like it should be flipping through space or something. It just. I get that they wanted to make it seem more advanced, but it was just too slick.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I think Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, and then for me, Star Trek the Motion Picture. They're not close, you know. I really really liked Star Trek Beyond,
Me too. Me too.
and I had wished that was the first movie they made, and not the third movie they made.
And really, it could have been. I
Yeah,
mean, because we have a pre-existing familiarity with like the old versions of the characters, so it wouldn't be that big of a deal to start with where they were in Beyond and just allow us to
yeah,
kind of catch up to them.
yeah.
Yeah.
Also in there is First Contact.
Yeah. First Contact. First Contact, I think,
Actually,
is the best of the TNG movies.
yeah, and it's also the one that I only ever watch. I really, when they're on the planet where everyone's young and they're stealing the rings to take it for the. It felt like an episode of the show, and here's the thing, I really wanted the TNG movies to have a thread, right?
Yeah.
They didn't have one.
No.
The original movies had a thread, and it was mostly about Kirk, a little bit about Spock. And the reason why 6 is satisfying is because we get to finally get the last thing with Kirk, and that is his hatred of the Klingons needs to be resolved, which is developed from episode 3. Everyone can forget episode 5, episode 5, movie 5, because it has nothing to do with anything. In fact, it's completely out of joint if you look at the end where where the Romulans and the Klingons are all holding hands and being nice to each other. It's bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would mostly agree. I would throw in an honorable mention for Star Trek 3 as being very underrated. I don't think it's necessarily. I don't think it's in the same category as Star Trek 2, but
3 does is it really cements these guys as friends.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We get a chance to see them doing things together, out of uniform, as friends to help another one of their friends.
Yeah.
And so,
well, and I mean, I like Star Trek. I like Star Trek 4 too. I mean,
me too.
Of the original TOS movies, the only one that I would honestly say is just flat out a bad movie is 5, and even that I can watch and have a ball watching it.
It's giddy fun.
Yeah,
it's giddy fun.
It's not like, oh God, Star Trek 5, I'm not watching that. Like it's
you don't have to take it seriously.
No.
It's just fun.
And there are moments in that of camaraderie among the crew. That you don't really see in the movies, except for some moments in Star Trek 3. I mean, I've always appreciated, and I appreciate it even more now knowing that it was 100% acting. There's a moment in Star Trek 5 when Kirk gets called back to the ship after the camping trip because they have to take the Enterprise out, and he's on the bridge and they're about to set course to go wherever they're going to go, and he puts his hand on Chekhov's shoulder, like in sort of a fatherly gesture, like, well, here we go again. And I love that moment. And that those actors loathed each other in real life. Not
all of them.
Especially, Walter Koenig and Shatner were not on good terms at all. Koenig especially.
Was he on good terms with anybody at that point?
I don't think he was on good terms with anybody. But there's just, it feels like a very genuine human moment between Kirk and Chekhov.
This was Shatner's tantrum movie.
Yes. I want to direct one. Leonard got to direct 2. I want to direct 1. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah.
We got a super chat from.
Oh yay!
Yeah. So I will donate it to the cause of producing the show.
Oh, thank you.
By the way, the Patreon for the podcast is linked in the description. If anybody wants to support the show by joining,
please
the Patreon
do
for the podcast.
These are time-consuming shows. I know it doesn't appear so because we put them out so regularly, but it does take a long time to produce just one episode. And I would love to be able to do some other things with it. I would like to break this out separately for its own RSS feed and do a whole bunch of other things for it. So please, thank you.
Yes, it's linked in the description, patreon.com/lemmylisten. Anyway, the question from the super chat from David Appleman is, this is one of those political questions disguised as a Star Trek question.
Oh, no.
Space Force, first step towards Starfleet, waste of money?
So, Space Force. I would prefer that it wasn't named after a toy line. Because, wow. I don't know if it's a waste of money. It really depends on what it's going to be used for. Is it the first step towards Starfleet? Maybe, if other people take it over.
Yeah.
And its primary goal is exploration. Then sure, yeah. Then Space Force. I will never be able to say that.
Space Force.
Space Force. We don't even have a shuttle. So I don't know what Space Force is just running around in a field somewhere. I do like how they kind of stole the logo, though. That was great.
Until you just said that, the absurdity of having a space force when we don't even have a single spacecraft in service didn't hit me, but it just hit me. It's like having an air force when we don't have any airplanes.
When we don't have any
It's
airplanes.
like, we're going to start an air force. It's going to be tremendous. Do we have any airplanes? No, we don't have any airplanes. We don't need airplanes for an air force.
But if Space Force can get us to the moon and get a base on the moon and can get us to Mars and beyond there, then great, Space Force. But I don't know if that's their objectives.
No, I mean, my problem with it is that it's being treated as a branch of the military, and I'm not a fan of space travel being militarized. I do like I mean, I'm a big government liberal, so I like the idea of space travel in general being a publicly funded operation. I'm happy when private corporations launch rockets and I like SpaceX and all that stuff. Like I think that's fine.
Yeah.
But I mean, to me, space travel should really be like I get excited about NASA, not about SpaceX. I want to see more publicly funded space travel where it's NASA doing stuff with its own vehicles, not redirecting funding to private corporations so that they can do their space travel. So I mean, I'm a big fan of that, but I'm not a big fan of militarized.
My secret fear is Space Force is a boondoggle to transfer funds to NASA to the military.
Yeah, well, yeah, and with this administration, I mean, how could you, yeah.
But I would love it if it was a boondoggle tricking us to put funding into a space exploration organization. But please change the name to anything.
Star Force.
That's even worse.
Space Cadets. Here's another least favorite question. This one is for you, Jason, because everybody already knows the answer.
Everyone knows all your answers. Yeah.
Least favorite Star Trek show.
Voyager, I think.
Yeah.
And not because it's necessarily bad. It's just, it was the first show. Now that I've watched all of Enterprise, I was a little bit more engaged in Enterprise, even though a lot of those shows were awful and had a terrible ending. I didn't disagree with the concept of Enterprise, so long as they didn't fuck up too much stuff. But aside from the Doctor, there was nobody that I was engaged with in Voyager. And it was frustrating to me. There were a lot of opportunities, as I was watching it the first time when it was first being aired, there was a lot of opportunities to tell a very different story.
Yeah.
And the problem that I had with the show is that they didn't struggle. They had struggle light. Oh no, we're out of X compound. Okay, let's get X compound. We got X compound. Oh no, our ship was nearly destroyed in the last episode. It's fine now. What?
Yeah, we fixed it.
And they're nonsensical. They're completely nonsensical. We can't use the replicators because of because we need to have this Technicolor warthog take over our lounge and cook food.
But we can use the holodeck as much as we want.
And we can use the holodeck, which actually creates material all the time. But we might run out of replicator stuff.
Oh, yeah. My favorite is when they did a whole episode about building the Delta Flyer, where they made a big deal about how they were going to build their own shuttlecraft, and it was going to be custom made, and it was going to be just suited to their needs, and they had to scavenge parts and blah, blah, blah. And then at the end of the season, the Delta Flyer gets blown up. And then when the new season starts, a couple episodes in, they just have a new Delta Flyer.
Yeah, they just have a new one.
And there's like one line of dialogue where they're like, "Hey, you want to take out? This will be a great chance to take the new Delta Flyer out for a test flight." Oh, we just built another one. Fuck it.
We replicated it. Don't tell anybody.
We don't have limited resources or anything. But yeah, stuff like that. Like, yeah, that gets on my nerves too. Well, because not because that necessarily makes it a bad show, but it points to a more interesting show that they didn't do, which is,
and that's one of the frustrating things. Also, they were lucky I made it past the Kazon.
Oh man!
Because it was like, oh look, dirtier, less interesting Klingons, and it was just like, and then they started getting into the Borg stuff, and then I was just like, nope, nope. I didn't finish the season.
Yeah.
I actually kind of walked away from Star Trek at that point because at that point there was nothing else on. I think I watched Voyager out of habit because DS9 was still on. And then when DS9 was over, I was like, oh, okay. Oh, look, Farscape. I'll watch that and become obsessed with that show. And so, because there was no one there to keep me interested, did I ever think that they would never make it home? Did I think that the end of Voyager would that be them tumbling into a black hole or never, crash landing on a planet? They build their civilization off the bones of the starship, which actually is kind of a neat idea, but neat ideas are things they didn't like on the show.
No. I wanted the last episode to end with a misspelled title card that said the Starship Voyager never returned home.
Remember the DS9 episode when Odo killed an entire bunch of people just so that he could keep Nerys alive?
Yeah.
Remember that?
Voyager never did anything like that. Like, damn, don't fuck with Odo.
Here's my biggest problem. They perfect faster that super warp engine that accidentally turns people into giant newts.
Right. Right.
But they get everybody back and they turn them back from being giant newts, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The one crew member on the ship that is guaranteed not to turn into a giant newt is the holographic doctor. So they go, okay, we're going to run the warp. We're going to run this thing. We're going home. And the doctor is going to change us all back from being newts.
Yeah. By the way, if they use it and they get all the way home, it won't just be the doctor. The doctor can contact Starfleet and be like, we're back, and okay, some things got a little screwed up, but here's how you can fix it. And
look, or even prepare by making enough anti-newt juice so that when they get back, he's just like, pumping it into the people in their home, and the show can be over. The show can be over.
The show is over, man. The show is over. This is a question from James Stoddard. What is your favorite character to voice other than your natural voice?
Harcourt Fenton Munn.
I knew you were going to say that.
It's my favorite.
He's like your favorite character, period.
Harcourt Fenton Mudd is my favorite Star Trek character simply because I really didn't like what Discovery did with him, because they kind of turned him into a murderer.
Yeah.
Harcourt Fenton Mudd is my favorite because on TOS, he's a rogue. He's a con man. And I've told Steve this, if CBS Paramount approached me and said, what kind of series do you want to, if you could make a series? My series is a series that Gene Roddenberry actually proposed called The Space Adventures of Harcourt Fenton Mudd. I would call it something different, but it would take place between his last appearance in the animated series and the movies. Mm-hmm. And I would love that because we've never done anything in that period of time. And also it would be his adventures outside of Starfleet, because I think he could represent the alternate perspective. They've made everything perfect on Earth, and how dreadfully, horribly boring it is. He lives in a post-scarcity world, but he prefers what he is doing. He's a little bit greedy. He does want money and stuff like that, but there has to be something driving him to leave the comfort of paradise to go out into the world and seek adventure and get into a lot of trouble. And that's one of the reasons why I love Harry so much. But after him, I really, really love doing Spot.
Yeah.
I really love doing Spot's voice. To the point in which I don't know if Spot's going to be gone or not, because I love Spot so much. But we'll see. We'll see. What about you, Steve?
Yeah. Well, it's hard for me because you do the guest characters more often than I do.
Oh, yeah.
And usually when I do a guest character, it's just my own voice kind of pitched up or down a little bit.
Yeah, there was a super fun episode where all the guest characters were me.
Yeah. Yes.
And they were all in the same episode.
I love doing my Romulan character.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Nivork.
Nivor.
Nivork, and you're Metal.
I'm Mito.
Yeah, I loved doing the Romulan character, and just because I think I love doing both of those characters together. Like I love that dynamic. That and you know that the first episode we did with them, where I break down crying
Mm-hmm.
because I love to cry on the show. I just have
Yes,
so
you
much.
do.
I
He
just have.
loves crying on the show.
I have so much fun. I'm like Lon Chaney Jr. Lon Chaney Jr. loved to cry because he was a bad actor and that was something he could do. And for me, it's the same reason.
Stop it.
No, and I just think it's really funny, and it's a lot of fun to perform. And yeah, that moment between us in our first episode as the Romulans, where you know I just kind of break down and lose it, and then your character has to be like, "Oh no, come on, it's okay. Who's my big Romulan warrior? Who's my Centurion?" You know?
Having your character break down is one of the funnest things in the world.
Oh, it's fun for me too. I loved toward the end of our recently completed season when it turns out that my mom blackmailed us to freedom, and I break down in the call with her. I'm like, oh, I love you, mom. Like that was so much fun to do.
I like doing Steve's mom too. I do like doing Steve's mom.
Yeah,
Anything that, and here's the thing: we both did Baby's voice.
that's true. Yeah,
I was Baby, and he was Armis.
Armis, and doing Armis was fun too because I got to play.
Oh
with,
yeah, you would
yeah,
that. You love doing Armis.
I was Armis, and you were Spot in that episode where Spot was coaching him to how
Yeah.
to be evil. That was a lot of fun to do.
We've lived it, and I loved you as Armis. I loved you as the high thrall third class.
Yes. Oh yes. Which is another, like we were talking about that episode earlier. Like that's just such a fun like addition to that episode. You know, like, there are people lower down on the totem pole that handle less prestigious operations.
And there were other characters that I just loved playing. They're the one episode characters. What was it? It was God. We made the worst joke in that show too. It was on the planet. What was the disc knife things that they would throw around? It was.
Oh, I can't remember, but yeah, I remember the joke. Wasn't like the character's name was the same as the
Kleegat. His character's name was Kleegat.
Yes.
And I love that because there was so much of their society that we could fill in.
Yeah.
And we made the worst joke on that, and that is, what was it? Comtha killed a Kleegat. Comtha killed a Klingon with a Kleegat. And you had to say, what was it you said after that?
Oh shit, I can't remember.
What a catastrophe!
What a
something
catastrophe!
Like
Yeah. I love that. That was to talk about favorite episodes. That was another one because that was one of the best examples of one of my favorite stories that we've done versions of a couple times where my character is trying to help and through no fault of his own, everything completely goes to shit.
Okay, so
he's trying to share some wisdom with these native people.
This is answering a previous question. I think this might be my favorite episode, and that is the episode of the apple, where we show up on that planet 2 weeks later, and they try to turn. They've descended into cannibalism, and they try to they're completely lost without their god, and we reverse everything that Kirk does in that episode.
Yes.
Where we bring their god back. What else? They tried to turn Steve into a god.
Yeah, and it was Steve and other Steve.
It's Steve and other Steve.
Yeah, because
And you want to write down everything that you're telling them not to do. And then you stop yourself and say that's a holy book. And then
catch myself. Oh shit, that's a holy book.
And he turns around and he says, I walk up. One of the things that my character routinely does is walk up at the right time when Steve has done something so stupid, or looks like he's done something awful, and say, "What's going on?" And he's like, "The Steve is going to write a holy book." We did that with that. We did that when we killed when we killed the ambassador. When you killed the ambassador,
Yeah.
it was like walking at the right time. If I can get Steve naked and having to explain why he's naked.
Yes. And I also love. I don't think I've ever. I don't think I've said this publicly, but I know when you and I have talked, I've mentioned that one of my favorite moments from the show recently, and one of the ones that when I was listening to the finished show just made me completely lose it, was in the episode when we're at my mom's house and we're plotting the mission to go to the secret base, and I am obviously trying to arrange things so that my mom dies on the mission.
Yes.
And the other characters are like, no, it doesn't work that way. Like if somebody dies, it's not like we get to pick, who it is.
Right.
It's just, and I say, yeah, but if we could pick, and then you as Jason comes in and you just say, what are you doing? And that fucking dropped me when I listened to it, because like I'm going so over the line.
Yeah.
And you're the guy who is like,
you wanted the mission to double as patricide.
Yeah, and you're just like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And there's something about like a person calmly trying to be the voice of reason in the midst of like a lunatic just going off. That is so funny to me. So.
Oh man.
Yeah. Here's another question. What character are you most excited for the ensigns to meet? I guess like established Star Trek character. Yeah.
I know which one, and it's right there. Q.
I would say Q as well. Yeah.
We've already met lots and lots of godlike beings, but apparently Q is the most powerful being in the universe. So yeah, Q.
Tasha Yar.
Boy.
Because I foresee a tragic.
Prepare for drama, guys.
I foresee a tragic story.
Do you?
In the future, yeah.
No, Tasha will be around forever.
Oh, that's right. We'll change that little bit of canon. She's secretly still alive.
Wouldn't it suck if we were a couple of when we were on the Enterprise and they do that time thing when Tasha's alive again?
Oh yeah.
That we just jump ships.
We're just not even there. Yeah.
No, we wind up in the one that goes back in time.
Let me see. I'm so far behind in the chat. I'm scrolling through to.
Okay, go. We're being long-winded too.
Yeah, but that's part of our charm.
Is it?
Damn.
Is it?
Okay, here's a request.
Okay.
For you, Jason, from Gemshin, can you give us all an oh hello from Spot?
Oh, so Spot has a traditional way that he enters a room or enters the conversation, and he usually says something along these lines. Oh, I couldn't help but overhear.
Exactly.
Because he's always asleep. But hello, gentlemen. I love Spot.
Hello, gentlemen is yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hello. Also, she says Stuff Loop asked who did the voice of Commodore Decker. That was you.
Yeah, I did Commodore Decker.
Sweet Chief.
Oh, Sweet Chief.
Sweet Chief, come here.
I loved Commodore Decker because it was a gentle in to that he has lost his mind. So
yeah, because he never calls my character anything other than Sweet Chief.
Other than Sweet Chief.
What are you doing, Sweet Chief? I need you to come to my quarters right now. I can't find my socks.
Oh, that's a different character that I loved playing, and that was
yes, you're right.
That what was it? It was Space.
Oh, the
Commissioner,
guy,
Space Commissioner Harris,
the guy who took control of the ship, and in our show we just
I'm declaring Section 15.
Yeah, we just took that. I love that one too. Now that I think about it, because we just took what was already there in the episode and took it to an absurd place. But it was already there in the episode. Like this
it was there. This stupid little cape of the Section 15, him wanting to take over the ship. That was one of the shows where I didn't realize how crazy I wanted him to be until we were going through it. Right. And then so there are certain episodes where we have made ourselves laugh repeatedly.
Yeah.
that gets edited out of the show. And one of them is that show. I kept making myself laugh because I
Yeah.
would say things like, "Is that how space does?" And I would be like, "No, okay, that's too far." Or, but what kept making you break up was the socks.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah,
And didn't I did a character a little bit like that, but not nearly as I don't think he was in the show as much, but it was the guy who kept saying that he is the master and he's the master of this vessel.
the commander. It was
Yeah.
which one was it? That was the aging episode where everyone's getting old,
That's right.
and
Yes.
he doesn't know how to get to the bridge.
Yes. Yes. And so there's another. This leads us into another question from James Stoddard, who says, "How much of the show is improv?" And I mean,
All of it.
All of it is improv. And what's great about the way we actually record the show is that when Jason gets a really a good idea for something that needs to happen for the episode to go in a particular direction. Sometimes if he knows far enough ahead of time, we'll talk about it before we record. But often what will happen is you will just give me a direction. Like,
I will say something under my breath.
yeah, you'll say like, say this or do this or no,
So-
no. Steve has to, and I have no idea that it's coming, and we just have to roll with it. And I think a lot of the stuff from that from the episode where I was playing the commander who got lost, like a lot of that was something that you were making things up in the moment and feeding it to me, and I had to take it and do something with it. And oh god, that is so much fun.
Well, there isn't like a director. I mean, a good example of that is the episode where we have to convince Mud to take the shuttle and go find information on Spot. And I, under my breath, because it was partially because we needed to fill time because my character was traveling. And Steve started to talk, and he was like, "Okay, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this." And I whispered to him, and I said, "Just start talking to Mud like you're talking to him right now." And then he started this incredible monologue in which he just got more and more bizarre. Like he turned it into a severe fantasy. His impression of Mud. That. And then I got him to do it again. I said, "Okay, this afterwards when he completely fucks it up, and he goes into another fantasy in which Mud begs for his hat because in the exchange between Mud and Steve, Mud got his phaser and his hat from him." And so it's just like I'll just whisper it to him, or I'll say it underneath my breath. Or when we get something totally wrong from our own canon or from Star Trek canon, I'll just whisper, "No, that didn't happen."
Yeah, just to fix it. Yeah.
Yeah, just to fix it so that we will go back and we'll do it again. But mostly we cut out laughter.
Yeah.
Laughter is hard to... We will laugh at our own jokes because we're narcissists. So.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's nothing that you hear in the finished show is scripted.
No.
There are certain beats that are pre-planned, but no, and there's never a script for a show at any point.
Yeah, and the way we usually end is we'll just be talking back and forth, and then I'll hear a line that'll be okay. That's where we'll cut off the transmission.
Yeah,
but we'll just keep going and going until I hear that final line that I think, okay, that's a good line to end with.
Yeah,
and then end it right there.
Yeah. And some of my favorite moments performing the show are when our characters are doing improv within the context of the episode.
Oh, yeah.
Those shows are so much... Well, like the Baby Armis was like
that. The Baby Armis thing was... we were
Armis, yeah.
Yeah, Spot and Armis were improvising how to be evil in an improv show. And we've done it a couple of times where we've kind of gone in... where our character was like, okay, well, you come to me and you ask, because so Steve's character thinks he can do all of these things, and he can't. And so the one where you were determined to find out if the current commander of the ship was a Section 31 spy, and I said, okay, go ahead and approach me like you're going to approach him, and then we go into this this improvised scene inside of an improvised show, that's always fun. That's always really fun. And
Yeah.
we do it a lot. We do
Yeah,
it a
and
lot.
it's always well, and it's so much fun to do, and it's especially when we're doing it as our regular characters, because like it's fun to do when the Spot Armis thing was just a blast, but when we're doing it as Steve and Jason, it's so much fun because they have such a well established rapport with each other,
Mhm.
and it I love doing it because you know generally how it's going to go
Mhm.
because you know that my guy is like the overconfident guy, and your guy is the usually you're more level-headed
A little bit.
and sometimes, I mean, sometimes you take it too far to the other side and you're pessimistic, but
Mhm.
you're the one who's like, no, that's not going to work. And I'm the one, I'm going to get frustrated, and
Mhm.
I'm going to push back, and I'm going to insist and dig in my heels, but the actual individual moments, you
I
don't
think
know
the
what it's
one
going
line you came up with that defines your character is, "Why does everyone think I'm stupid?
to
I'm
be.
not stupid. I'm a Starfleet officer."
I love those when I get to like indignantly rattle off my credentials,
Yeah.
which we've done a couple of times. Like, well, I'm a graduate of Starfleet Academy. I've been a Starfleet officer for 30 years. I'm a trained security officer. Like when I get to
Yeah.
just
Hmm.
yeah.
But yeah.
Someone asked 255 AD asked, why did you go to the academy rather than enlisting? Because it's called the
Uh,
ensign's log, not the
yeah.
enlisted's log.
Yeah. If we had enlisted, so the way Starfleet works, from what I understand, is that if you become enlisted, you do hold a rank, but it's not. It's like Chief O'Brien.
Right.
O'Brien enlisted, and while he has a lot of authority and control, I don't actually know what Chief O'Brien's rank is, if he has one. Right.
Right.
When you go to the academy, when you come out of the academy, you come out with an officer's rank as an ensign. An ensign is an officer's rank. And so it's not because it wouldn't be called the ensign's log.
Right.
Um, I wanted them to be officers and to have a history like that. If we had been enlisted men, then I think, I don't know if, do we have? Because we'd have no, ensigns don't have any stripes on their sleeve.
Right.
So we'd just be crewmen.
Yeah. The crewman's log.
And yeah, it would be the crewman's log, and people would be like, "Yeah, I wanted the ensign's log in there just to get it's a little bit more Star Trekky."
Yeah. And
I never told Steve this, but I had played around with us being the yeoman's log,
oh
that we're the only two male yeomen on the ship because all the other yeomen seem to be women.
yeah.
But yeah, that was a little too deep a cut,
I,
I think.
I like the idea, especially because my character is such a dipshit. I like the idea that they are officers, which means that they are the military version of college educated. Like we're
Yeah,
smart people. We didn't just go sign up to join Starfleet for something to do. Like we went the
right.
full route and became
Mm-hmm.
officers, and we're still the way we are.
They're still dipshits.
We're still dipshits. Oh, here's an interesting one. Have you ever had to redo or significantly change direction on an episode? And what's the most you've ever had to redo on an episode? I think we have to redo an entire episode once because one of us forgot to record.
Yeah, it
I
was
think
you, and I can't remember.
we've only had to do that on Ensign's Log once. I think we've had to do that on Late Seating at least twice that I can think of.
Yeah,
But Ensign's
sometimes
Log,
if we record on the wrong microphone on late seating on our review show, we'll just still put it out. But because our characters are supposed to be in the same place in the same room,
yeah.
if we record it on a wrong microphone, we have to redo the whole show. And we did that once, and I can't remember which one it is. I want to say it's Space Grandpa, but I don't think it is.
Actually, I think it was the Balance of Terror episode.
You know what it was?
I think
Yeah,
it
you're
was.
right. It was. It was Balance of Terror when
Because
we were
I was
doing
worried. Because our first it felt so good the first time, and I was worried that we wouldn't be able
to
to
recapture that.
recapture it. And then I remembered nobody heard the first version. They won't know the
Yeah,
difference.
it's just us. We won't know.
Yeah.
So I think we came back to it on a different day.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. We didn't do it the same day. No.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that was that. But that's the only time we've had to do that on Ensign's Log.
And change direction. No, not really. Not really. our shows are pretty well um, they're pretty well confined. I will put things in anticipation of something happening later. Like I will try to introduce things so that they just don't pop up conveniently. Like I knew that we were going to have to take care of. I'm not quite sure when I got the idea that Baby was going to become Armus,
Right.
but once that was in my head, I knew that I had to get him transformed and then onto that planet that Picard and company find him on. So I had to put in motion certain things had to be in place in order for us to do that. Since Spock's panic button. But tying that episode in with the City on the Edge of Forever, that was not planned.
Yeah.
That was not planned. That was just let's see how close we can get to really altering canon without doing it. Right.
Right.
So yeah, but we've never really had to do a sudden stop or about face or make a left turn. Yeah.
No, it's just like you were saying, just stuff that has happened accidentally or happened that wasn't planned, and we went with it, but nothing like Do you ever see promotion for the ensigns again?
Sure. Yeah, I do. My character more than his, probably,
which would make more sense.
But I think it would be funnier if it was his.
And someone followed up to that. That was Miles Mulholland asking the question. And Seal 0626 said, "I would love for Steve to end up an admiral." Which is like,
it kind of makes sense.
It makes perfect sense because we have really dug into the crazy admiral trope where it's like,
if you guys have listened to the courtroom episode, Steve has no citations.
Which is, I love that. I love that joke.
And maybe in the mirror universe, someone is an admiral.
Hey, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be perfect. In the mirror universe, we're like high-ranking officers. It would have to.
Well, you are.
Or I would. I am. And by the way, and I thought this too, but I don't know if it's ever been established on camera. But apparently, O'Brien's official rank is Chief Petty Officer.
Okay.
Yeah. It's someone. She says stuff. Loop says, I'm behind a few episodes. Has Lenore's story been resolved? No. Not yet.
We have plans.
Yeah, something's going to happen with that, but not.
Boy, it would be nice if we had a female cast member.
We could actually have Lenore appear
Speak.
on the show. Some random geek wants to know, what are you vaping, Jason?
Menthol.
There you go.
Zero nicotine. It's a habit.
It's not snake leaf.
It makes me no. Fuck that. Fuck that. But thanks for reminding me. Now I can introduce it into the show.
Hey, there you go. Would you lay off the snake leaf, dude?
Can't shut up. Leave me alone. Leave me alone to my snake leaf.
Here's an interesting question that we have joked about privately before. Would you guys ever consider skipping TNG and going straight to Deep Space Nine?
Yes.
We have talked about that a lot privately.
We have talked about jumping into TNG in the third season rather than the first season. We have talked about how one of the bigger things that we have is that DS9 starts 2 years before TNG is over. So
yeah.
We have things that I would like to be able to accomplish. I would like to be the one that convinces Rolera not to go to DS9.
That would be great.
But do we really want to do 7 years of TNG? And so I still have a little bit of time to figure out what we're going to do. There's a part of me that goes, let's just do the big episodes, right? Let's just do the big episodes as we go through, Best of Both Worlds and all that other stuff. And then when it comes to DS9, do we want to jump ship immediately and go to DS9? Which I kind of want to do.
Right.
Or, are there things that we want to accomplish in TNG? And I won't know that until we're actually doing the show. until we're there and it's working, because there's a lot of stuff that I want to be able to do on that ship with those characters. And I won't know what that is until we're doing it. So will we jump in third? You know, when Dr. Pulaski's gone, maybe. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
And you know, I mean,
but jumping it all together, no, I don't think so.
yeah, but because I think we're both such fans of TNG that I don't think either one of us would want to just not do any of it. I mean, even though I think we both would say that DS9 is our favorite show. I mean,
it is our favorite show.
Yeah, we also have a lot of affection for TNG. And especially for a lot of those characters, so you know, you wouldn't want to just not do it.
Right, right, exactly.
Yeah. But Voyager, I would totally skip.
You jump into Enterprise.
we could travel back in time to Enterprise.
Right.
Does this all seem kind of familiar to you? But like not? I don't know.
Right. What do you mean Starfleet doesn't exist? What are you talking about? What? I'm a member of the Federation.
Wait, this is the first Enterprise? I could have sworn the one we were on was the first one. We've already blown that though, because we've
referenced it.
Yeah, we have decided, and I enjoy this because, you know, it acknowledges the unity of the whole franchise. Like, we've made references to Enterprise, we've made a few references to Discovery, so it's like we've established that it all exists in some form or another. Like, it all exists in our show, which I really like.
We've established that there are bony-headed Klingons alongside regular Klingons, and we don't know which is which.
And I love there was a gag we did, not really a gag, but just a reference in one of our episodes in this most recent season. It was in one of the recent episodes when your character makes a big deal of not being able to talk about something because
the DS9 the Discovery stuff,
because it had to do with Discovery and you've been sworn to secrecy. And
just like everybody else on the Enterprise has been sworn to secrecy.
I love that
for some reason. I don't know why. We're all sworn to secrecy other than to cover up, you know, canon destroying stuff. So that's why he doesn't talk about it no more.
There's a
if
joke.
People want to know what Spock and I talk about when I go to his quarters, it's his sister.
Watch Discovery,
She was a lunatic, right? She never should have been in Starfleet.
There are two Discovery jokes I have planned for my comics that I do, and one of them is in the one that I'm working on right now, where the premise is that it's been so long now that Captain Pike's secret memoir has finally been unsealed and people are reading it. and like, so Riker and Geordi are on a shuttlecraft on their way back to the ship from some kind of conference at a starbase, and Geordi is like, "Have you read Captain Pike's secret memoir that they just published? It is bananas." And Riker is like, "Did you read the chapter about the Universal Mushroom Highway?" Like,
that technology we just abandoned for some reason. Yeah, I mean, one of the nice things about doing an audio trek is that whatever your headcanon is for how we're dressed, that's how we're dressed, right? We can be in original TOS costumes with original TOS sets, but if you guys like the aesthetic of the Discovery stuff, we can be in that too.
Right.
We can be dressed in those uniforms and in that ship. Mainly because we don't have the burden of changing the aesthetics of stuff. We're trying to keep it all in canon, but however you're picturing us, we're in that ship as those people. We're definitely not in the Kelvin universe.
Oh yeah, we're definitely in the Prime universe for sure.
Yeah.
Or
if you want, we're in our own.
Right. Yeah, that is just
when we traveled through time in episode 2, we officially split off from the canon TOS main timeline.
Yeah. I know in my imagination we're on classic TOS sets.
Yeah, me too.
Uniforms. But the great thing about it, like you said, and Because I really, really loved the interiors of the Enterprise on Discovery. I love that bridge, especially the bridge. I just thought it was one of my favorite Star Trek ship sets I've ever seen. And
Why have a small bridge where everyone can communicate with each other?
that's the problem is that everything
Where
is
you
so
have to
spread
shout
out.
across a room because it's the size of a fucking split ranch development in California.
Because it's easier to shoot.
I understand.
There's more
that.
space for the camera. But so I love that set. But the great thing about it, and the great thing about Star Trek being, like completely made up, is that both are true at the same time. Like those are both the Enterprise. So, if you want it to be classic Trek, that's what it is. And if you want it to be how it looks in Discovery, that's what it is. And they are both equally true because they're just different. They're different aesthetics of the same thing.
Yeah, and that's why I like our show, because we can be whatever it is you guys decide in your head canon what we're doing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And we reference it a little bit with the Section 31 uniforms.
So in my mind, I was adopting the classic Trek uniforms but making them black.
Yeah.
And also I brought in the comm badge communicator thing, which that was fun. That was fun to try to mix up that stuff. But yeah.
There's a comment says, I'm waiting for Steve to endanger everybody's lives by spouting at Q about all the other omnipotent beings he's met and what they were capable of.
Yeah.
And basically dare him to do worse. You've basically written an episode for us there. That's a premise for.
If you think you know what Q's like, you know what Steve's like, and you also know that we have established that hyper intelligent, super powerful beings like hanging out in our quarters for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And that they have a grapevine.
They know that we're a cool place to hang out.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, this is something that 255 AD asks, will you still be roommates on the Enterprise D?
That's a good question.
That's a good, and the reason that they ask is because that ship is so huge.
And I think what it'll mostly be is our astonishment at just how we'll be like, is this the captain's quarters? Because Jesus Christ.
Like how Scotty was.
How many people sleep in this room? Yeah, just like Scotty was.
In my day, even an admiral would have not had
you
such
slept
quarters.
On cardboard on the floor.
Did you ever read, I think it was it Clickhole that did the oral history of Star Trek? And they had a bit where James Doohan was living on the set for like 20 years after the show was canceled.
Stop it.
He was like sleeping in the rafters.
Stop.
I didn't write it.
Whatever. You thought it was funny. We just make fun of Scotty's alcoholism.
I did, yeah. We do. Exactly. And McCoy's. We mentioned McCoy's alcoholism every once in a while.
How many ensigns have to escort him out of the engine room and to his own quarters? You can't sleep here.
You can't sleep here, sir. Seal 0626 says, I really want to hear you guys take on Code of Honor, though. Yeah, that's a first season episode that will be a lot of fun to do for our show.
Oh boy.
Let's do a riff on the worst episode ever.
Ever. Worse than Spock's brain.
Oh, way worse. Because Spock's brain is just a bad episode. Like Code of Honor is like at least Spock's brain isn't racist. Like you could give it that. And we have a request. Could you include a TNG moment where the universal translator breaks down and you hear Worf shouting in Russian? That would be funny. That's a great. That's such a great reference.
Great.
That's a great reference.
That is a great reference.
That's so good. Here's just a nice comment from Wooga who says, I can't express how much I respect the way that you bend over backwards to make sure nothing you do breaks canon. It's a thing of beauty. Well, thank you.
Well, thank you. Yeah. I mean, it makes it more fun.
It really does. I mean, for all of the shit that I talk about, how like not being a stickler for canon, when you're actually creating something within a pre-established framework, it is actually it is a lot of fun to try and do it within the boundaries. Like it's a challenge, and And when you bounce off of those walls, like that, that's where the fun stuff is. Like if you just
Right.
completely write over everything, then it's not as much fun.
One of the things that I try to do and Steve tries to do is number one, don't irrecoverably damage the characters, the
Yeah.
pre-existing characters.
Right.
Don't have, it would be easy to be doing this and have Kirk be this total Lothario and always sleeping with women and all this other stuff, something that I don't even think we've touched on
Yeah, we haven't.
in the series, because he's not in the original series. That's his reputation outside of it, that he was always, hooking up with women, which isn't true necessarily. He
Right.
kissed a lot of women, but we try not, like, our characters have had a lot of interactions with Spock, and it would be easy to churn those characters, but rather we try to make it so that those characters have a character-driven response, rather that's established for their characters, rather than make up crap that just doesn't fit in with who they are. And I think we've taken liberties with Scotty.
Yeah.
And we've taken liberties with Uhura, because they just never gave them much. So
Right.
we borrow from the stuff that's existing. Uhura likes to sing, and she apparently knows how to fan dance. And so we've taken those things a bit further than they were, but not to the point in which they would damage the character or change them and turn them into something that they're not. So we're trying to be respectful to them. And also, like, I think we said this in the Q&A in season 1, there's a lot that they've never returned to.
Yeah.
So it gives us this huge playground. And I try to double check things when I can in Memory Alpha to see, okay, what's going on here? Where is the wiggle room where we can establish our stuff? My nightmare is of course that something else is going to come along and destroy the canon that we're producing for our show. But I'm not terribly worried about it. I mean, there were some tense moments with Discovery where I was like, what is Discovery going to do that might fuck up our show? And thankfully, it just added stuff in there.
Yeah.
I mean, I think someone directly asked us during our first Q&A about Captain Joju and what happened to the Discovery, and we had to act. We were playing dumb, right? You didn't know, I didn't know. Turns out that was the perfect answer.
Hey, we're not supposed to know. Or but you're not supposed to say, and I wouldn't know. Yeah.
And I can't talk about it. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to tell everybody, we've been going over 2 hours now, so we're probably going to start wrapping it up soon. We have a few more questions that are already posted that I want to get to, but so if anybody has like final questions you want to get in, just go ahead and put them in now, and we'll try to wrap up in the next little bit. There was one in Picard. They've made the civilian clothes look more contemporary. Is that an improvement over the sweaters they used to put Wesley in?
Yes. Yes, it is.
I agree. I think, yeah.
Everyone likes a comfy sweater, but you don't stick it on a little boy.
I actually think I do think the civilian clothes in Picard look a lot better than they used to in the other shows. But I think the civilian clothes started to improve a little bit midway through Deep Space Nine, when they stopped.
Yeah, midway. Yeah,
when they stopped dressing Jake in those embarrassing like jumpsuits, and they actually let him wear like shirts and jeans.
For Jake.
He's
got enough to deal with. His mom is dead, and you dress him like that?
Yeah, his wardrobe for the first 3 seasons of DS9 is awful, and then they finally start dressing him like a grown up, and his wardrobe improves dramatically. But
hey, wouldn't it have been great if Jake was the one that was interviewing Picard, because he's gone on and become a journalist?
That would have been so great.
It's funny how I keep coming up with great ideas for Picard. No, I agree. All of their clothes, all of their casual clothes, always looked very uncomfortable.
Yeah, big time.
Because they were made out of, couch material. Just very stiff and uncomfortable. Nothing looked comfy, right?
Yeah.
You never showed up, you never showed up at Kira's place and she's in like baggy sweats.
No. Actually, I don't know. Other than when she was dressed like formally for some occasion, I don't know if you ever saw Kira in out of her uniform. She was always wearing either the uniform or some kind
As
of
much
formal
as we
thing.
wanted to.
There goes that positive masculinity reputation.
Whatever,
Right
you know I'm joking.
Here's one from Robert Mills. Will you be playing poker with the rookie ensigns? I presume
Yes.
from the lower
I think that's a
decks.
great idea. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Two incredibly old ensigns terrify them about their careers.
Oh, that is, yeah. Oh my God, that would be great. Will you guys meet future Scotty? I mean, I guess it would
Well,
make
that
it
would
that
be.
far. Yeah.
We have to be able to. I'll think about that one because how in the hell do we explain? Because there's always so in TNG there's future Scotty,
Yeah.
future McCoy,
That's right.
and future Spock.
Future
All
Spock.
three of who know us.
Yeah, that's right.
And we would have to explain why we're there and that the same age as the last time they saw us.
Yeah. And we come up with a different bullshit story for every time.
We'll probably find him when he is like flat on the face with the holodeck still on, drinking, with a whiskey bottle next to him.
Picard has just left. Snuck out.
Yeah, he quietly tiptoed out.
Oh, he's unconscious.
Well, I'll leave you to it then.
Goodbye.
Puts a sign up, do not disturb, an embarrassing moment.
I love on the Enterprise D, he has like a hand lettered cardboard sign that he just puts on the outside of the door.
Yeah, exactly.
This is a very hurtful thing for Robert Mills to say, and it's directed at you, Jason, and I just want you to know that I think this is a terrible thing to say.
Then why read it?
Because I want to share it with you.
You want to hurt me?
I want to hurt you.
Okay,
I want to hurt you for the good of the show.
I can show over anytime.
You are the murderer of Keeler. And you helped kill 65 million people.
My earplug fell out. What is it? What happened?
You are the murderer of Keeler. And you helped kill 65 million people.
I know. I couldn't help it. I didn't know. It wasn't on purpose.
We did save the future.
Yeah, we did save the future. We stopped the timeline.
Yeah.
How many more people died when the Nazis took over the planet?
Exactly. As Spock even said, millions died who did not die before.
Yes.
So shove it up your ass.
He just wants to hurt my feelings.
He's just trying to hurt my friend's feelings.
Maybe we'll correct that.
We'll go back. We'll go back and save her.
I think I mentioned that to you.
Oh yes, we have mentioned that, like doing an episode where we go back and change a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. Here's another, a really nice comment to sort of counteract that that accusation of murder.
I'm a murderer.
This is my favorite Star Trek podcast.
Murdered her, murdered all those people.
Oh, Jason.
Murdered all those crazy people on that planet that got eaten by the Death Fleet ship.
Robert, you see what you did? Now he's going.
Killed everybody on that Romulan research, the Romulan Section 31 research station.
And that was just recently too.
Not to mention everyone that's ever, visited the ship, because my character's a secret psychopath. Oops.
Oh, you mean the ending that they should have given to Murder, She Wrote, where it turns out she killed everybody?
Someone walks down into a basement, it's just filled with desiccated corpses.
Exactly. Anyway, so she says stuff. Loop says, "This is my favorite Star Trek podcast by a mile."
Oh, thank you.
It's provided me with countless laughs. Thank you, guys. Well, you are very welcome.
You're very welcome.
Yeah.
We're just happy that people find us funny.
Yeah, other than each other.
Yeah.
We find each other and I think I've told you that before, and I might have even mentioned this on our last live stream. The only concern I ever had about the show was that I hoped other people would find it as funny as we do.
Yeah,
because we crack each other up constantly when we're doing the show and talking about the show, and it's always nice when you hear from someone who listens to it and thinks that it's funny.
Thank you.
From Cord Isbell. Actually, no. Here's one from Miles, real quick. Will you guys pick on Wesley when you reach TNG?
Poor
Wesley.
We don't want to give up too much, but fuck yeah. My biggest problem with TNG are the fucking children on board this ship.
They've given me a ship with children on board. I hate
That's right.
children.
Line them up. Line them up.
You know, number
Out
one.
into space with you.
You know, number one, not only do they give me a ship full of children, but they won't let me kill any of them. Not a single one. Now. Okay, now here's the question from Cord Isbell. How long?
You know what would have cemented that better?
What?
Is that every time that the Enterprise was being shot at or dissected by a Borg cube, they cut to the reaction shots of children cowering in their corners screaming.
There are still kids on the ship. after the last 3 times when when everybody was almost killed, they left.
Picard should have been children routinely walking up to him and spitting at him because of their childhoods were so traumatic.
You ruined my life.
Remember that time we all de-evolved? Remember that? And I turned into a spider monkey?
And you weren't even there?
You have one ship's council and there are 1,000 people on it.
You ruined my life.
I signed up for therapy, but then my dad got transferred off the ship before I got to see her.
You know, hey, here's a question I could ask you, and it might be a point where we agree, and it might be another point where it'll give you an excuse to shit on Picard some more.
Okay,
but I've heard complaints from a couple of people about the show where their major complaint seems to be that the character of Picard that we find him in the show has exhibited any character growth at all. They complain that he's not exactly the same character as he was 20 years ago. And one of the things is his relationship with the little Romulan Lord of the Rings elf, Elrond.
Elrond, which is actually a name of a Lord of the Rings character. By the way, it doesn't help much that every time I hear someone say his name, I hear them saying Elmo.
But people have complained because he first met this character when the character was a child, and from the brief scenes that we see of Picard, and they seem like they had a really close relationship, and the complaint is, well, that's wrong because Picard doesn't like children.
That's a dumb complaint.
It's a dumb complaint because it's like, okay, he hasn't. You're not allowing that he's changed at all.
He can't be frozen in amber between the last time we saw him and now. Well, I mean, he's a freaking old man who can't run anywhere.
And also, there was a little smidge of character development in TNG to indicate that he was already moving away from that.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean,
here's the thing. The things that I disagree about the changes in Picard's character are his sudden and deep relationship that he had with a character that he didn't really have a sudden and deep relationship with the character. Right? I mean, Data, if you take a look at Data's history on board the ship, there were several times in which he took it over and nearly destroyed it. There was a lot of problems with Data. Okay?
Yeah.
But now he just thinks that he's the most awesome thing since sliced bread, and I miss him so much. And it's like, that's Geordi. That's not him. Okay, yeah. Geordi is the one that should be really upset that Data's gone because they were best friends. But Picard acts like they were fucking ex-lovers. And it's like, I can understand him regretting it, but you didn't see him go fucking bonkers when Tasha Yar died. Or any of the other people that died screaming under his command.
I love that died screaming.
Remember the dude who had his brain fried? He's just like, he fell down in a fetal position right in front of him.
Picard yelled about that.
Yes, he got very upset.
We cannot allow you to do that. You better not. You better not do that anymore.
Do it again, I dare you.
Yeah, I bet you won't.
That's the only main. It seems a little out of character for him to be this preoccupied with Data thoughts.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me.
Borg stuff, that's fine. He can have as much trauma from that as he wants.
Let me ask you this.
What?
Very minor spoilers for Picard coming up in the next couple minutes. So just if you don't want a very minor spoiler, then maybe don't listen to this next part.
Or any spoilers.
Or any spoiler. But
Yeah.
As someone who I think it's obvious that you're not enjoying the show quite as much as I am. What did you think? How cold-hearted are you when Picard was reunited with Hugh in the last episode?
Oh, I thought it was great, but here's the thing.
Yeah.
Ready?
Please.
Who interacted with Hugh?
Oh, I know.
Who developed Hugh into a person?
I know it was Geordi.
What was the last? I mean, he may as well have just said "fuck you, Hugh" when he beamed off the ship. Who was down on the planet with Hugh?
Fuck you, Hugh.
Who knew that Hugh still retained his personality from that little look that Hugh gave him? Who was that, Steve? Who was it?
That was Geordi.
Okay, so
Do you think Patrick Stewart just stole LeVar Burton's show?
Yes, he did.
he swooped in and said, "Nope, not doing that."
LaForge is a great name for a show, isn't it?
LaForge.
Mm-hmm.
The Forge.
Now, if that had been Geordi, that would have been worthy of a hug because they're friends. Geordi would have been overjoyed to see him and what he's doing. Picard was the dude who wanted to put a bomb in him and send him back to the Borg, and then kind of changed his mind. But they weren't close.
I get that. But 2 points. First of all, Picard was the character in that episode, in the original Hugh episode. Picard was the character who had the character arc.
Yes.
Who had to change from "I'm going to use him to kill them all" to he's a
Geordi,
person.
Geordi had a similar arc.
Yeah, but he got there a lot quicker. He got there first, and then he was one of the people. Like Picard was one of the, and actually, it's a similar.
Picard was the last.
It's a similar character arc to the one. Picard has a little tiny character arc in this episode of Picard that's kind of similar, where he goes from saying, the Borg don't change, and then he's like, oh wait, yes they do. Oops.
So I just want to remind you of the episode.
Yes.
It starts Geordi.
Yes, Geordi.
Then Geordi starts thinking, oh, maybe he's not. Then Guinan.
Guinan changes, yeah.
The Borg fucking killed all of her people and scattered them to the winds. She changes. Yeah. Both of them have a change of heart before Picard does. Who's like, fuck him, fuck it all, fuck him. Put him, all the bombs in him and send him. I don't care.
Or to kill them all. Yeah. Well, and part of this is real world considerations, which is Picard is the star of the show, and
yes,
you don't want to have you don't want to have the star of the show have the epiphany halfway through.
Yeah.
But that's the same reason, and it's the same reason why Picard and Hugh have the reunion instead of Geordi and Hugh, because Picard's the star of the show. But I will say, for as much as I have enjoyed the new show so far, despite having a few problems with it, the moment when Hugh sees Picard for the first time. And he smiles at him and he says, welcome. And he says, I have no idea what you're doing here, but I will help you however I can. I was in a puddle on the floor. I love that. That moment could not have been more perfect for me. I thought that was,
because Picard begrudgingly accepted that he was an individual.
But see, I wasn't thinking about that in that moment. I wasn't thinking about all of the previous interactions.
Do you want to know why Picard hugged him? Because we wanted to hug him. It didn't make any sense for his character.
Because he didn't want to
Remember me? I didn't think you were a person.
Until I did.
And then I was going to suicide bomb you. That was going to be great.
But yeah, I really love that moment. And that's great. And I love seeing Jonathan Del Arco as Hugh again.
Yes, it was really nice to see that actor and to see that character again. I agree with you.
And we actually get to see his face because it's not all covered with Borg shit anymore.
Yeah, no more Borg shit. But what kind of impact would it have been had it been Geordi?
Oh, I agree. And look, well, here's the thing too. If they had made Star Trek LaForge instead of Star Trek Picard, I would watch the shit out of that show.
He'd be married to a robot, right?
I would watch the shit out of that show, but I don't know if that show would have the kind of broad appeal that they were hoping.
I know why they chose Picard, but they're stealing riffs from other characters.
Maybe Geordi could guest star in a future episode and be like, what are you doing? Like, you couldn't call me? You're going off on a data
You couldn't
mission?
let
You
me
couldn't
know.
call me?
The first phone call wasn't, "Hey Jordy, guess what? Your best friend might have a daughter." Nope.
Your dead
Fuck
best
Jordy
friend.
LaFour. Your dead best friend?
Yeah. Oh, and then you met Hugh? You
You
couldn't
know,
call me?
outside of the Daystrom Institute, you probably know more about his positronic matrix than anybody else. But nope, I'm not calling you, Jordy.
Jordy,
Fuck you. I
Jordy
just
is.
called you to say fuck you
Hey,
and fuck your friendship. I was better friends with Data. Click.
he just leaves it like a really pissy voicemail. Um,
Maybe he just doesn't remember him.
Jordy, let me see.
Forge.
The big guy with the bumpy forehead? No, that wasn't.
Are you the man that spreads the manure on my grapes?
It spreads the manure on my grapes. Oh, the Romulan fellow who's my housekeeper. No, that's not him. Jordy. Will okay, here's would you ever bring back the Ensign's Log supplemental or stick with doing season-ending Q&As?
I think we're going to stick with season-ending Q&As because when we get to the Q&As, we want people to have a bunch of questions.
Yeah, that's
doing the supplementals I think we're doing them every 5 episodes, kind of clears that out. And we like spending time with you guys. And so if that attracts more people to the end of the show, it also gives a lot of people a lot more to talk about. So,
Yeah.
and also the supplementals were fun, but this show takes a lot of time to produce. So I'm working a lot. So to fit that in and put in an additional show is kind of difficult. Especially around both of our schedules because we're both very busy.
Yeah.
If we get more time, if I could do this full time instead of have a day job, yes.
I feel like if it were financially viable for us, I think we would both do this show every day and just completely drive it into the ground.
Yeah, we would.
We'd just completely just kill
We
it,
would.
just murder it.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody would be sick of it. Let me see. Are you upset or looking forward to the Lower Deck series? It seems similar to your show concept.
If we ever see it.
If it's ever actually released.
Similar, sure, but it's not going to be the same. I mean,
Yeah.
I have no idea. Here's the thing. It's similar, but it's taking a less riskier option. From what I understand, it's going to be on a completely different ship.
Yeah.
What time period is that in TNG?
I think it's supposed to be roughly TNG time period. Yeah.
Okay. If it's funny, I'll watch it. I won't
Yeah.
resent it for having. They're not doing what we're doing. What we're doing is difficult, and from what I understand from writing in Hollywood, is you don't want to do anything that's too hard. And that would, even it's animated, it's an animated show. They could be on any ship doing anything, and they had to make up a brand new ship and a brand new stuff. And at this point, I don't even know if it's still in production. I don't know if it's coming out or not. Do you know, Steve?
I think it is. I think it is actually still in production. Yeah. I would be.
I haven't seen or heard anything about it.
They haven't said a whole lot about it for a while, but I think it's still in production. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I would. I'm if it's good. Like that's my whole criteria.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what they do with the franchise. I don't care where they take it. I don't care what the shows are. As long if it's good, I will like it. Like I'm not,
What's the point? I mean, there's the Orville is taking care of all their satire.
That's true. Yeah, that's the only thing is if the show, if they want it to be like a show, like a Star Trek show that makes fun of Star Trek, it's tricky to do that inside the franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Because even though I think they're a lot more relaxed about that stuff now than they were under the Berman regime, you're still like, I'm sure there are still executives who aren't necessarily involved with the creative, like people who are above Kurtzman, who would say, do we really want to do that? That seems a little flippant. That seems a little irreverent, and I don't know if they'll be able to do
They may take a little bit too much care.
Yeah.
With what is required for a show to be funny.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying it's impossible to do a comedy show set in the Star Trek universe. But it takes talented people to be able to write it and produce it. And They just need to be good with, no matter what we do, we're going to piss off somebody. They have to be okay with that.
Yeah.
Before they do anything. I don't know if they've necessarily learned that lesson yet, but the fact that they're making it a cartoon and it's not going to be canon and it's set so totally separate from everything else is kind of like, okay, that's fine. If it's funny, I'll watch it. If it's not funny, if it's everything that I'm afraid that they will turn it into, basically, The Simpsons or the Family Guy on board a spaceship, then I will be out. I will be out. So, yeah.
Yeah, someone in the chat just said that apparently the time frame of Lower Decks is set in the year 2380, which would put it about a year after Nemesis.
Yeah.
So late TNG movie era.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also depends on the artwork and a bunch of other stuff.
It just like it just depends on if it's a good show.
Mm-hmm.
Like it just there's very little. I am very, very, as I think people who watch my Trek Actually videos will be able to tell you, I am extremely flexible when it comes to what is and isn't Star Trek. Like if it's a Star Trek show and it's good, I am not someone to get hung up on,
right.
Like, oh, it's the tone is wrong or the premise is wrong, or like if it's a good show, it's a good show. And
now, if their little cartoon show falls apart completely, they're more than welcome to buy this show from me.
Absolutely, we could get paid.
You get paid, yeah, that would be nice.
And then we could get Frakes on.
Oh God. I have daydreams about finding some TNG cast member and getting them on the show without telling you.
Oh, man.
Specifically Frakes.
Frakes.
We'd have to take 15 minutes for you to clean yourself up. But
I'd be like, wait, let me record the call. Okay.
Wait a minute. I got to get my wife in here.
It's Jonathan Frakes.
You said it wouldn't happen, and it's happened.
Yeah. Who's laughing now? Now what do you think of your husband? Who's wasted their life now?
I don't know. Get Jerry Ryan to come back.
Yeah, because we're such good buddies now, right?
Yeah, you are. You should say, hey, we need a female cast member for this show.
Hey.
We can't pay you anything.
Yeah, right. Hey, Star Trek actor who is currently enjoying a sudden career resurgence because you're actually in a new Star Trek show. Would you like to do our podcast for free?
They're not going to go anywhere with that.
I know. I don't think they would either. But I mean, I know it would be cool. I would, like I've said before, I would totally watch a 7 of 9 spinoff.
Sure.
Yeah. And it could just be her killing people every week.
Oh, it's her with Chakotay's head in like a bottle, and he's still alive.
Like in Futurama.
She does all this stuff, and then she comes home and she opens up a thing, and Chakotay's head wakes up.
He's like, hey.
How was your day, honey?
How you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Did I ever tell you about my boxing career? It's a very huge part of my life that was somehow went completely unmentioned for half of my series. Okay.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, someone asked here. Let's do like 2 more questions, and then we'll end this death march of a live stream.
Okay. This death march.
I'm kidding. We could literally, we could go for 6 hours, and I would be completely happy with it. But
yeah, I know. But you have other things you need to do.
We have other things we need to do. But what? And at some point, you have to take some consideration.
You heard the thunk of your wife's luggage hitting the bed, and you're like, shit.
This is that day. Oh my God. No, at some point, I think
this is that day.
You have to have some consideration for the people watching, And,
yeah, exactly.
But anyway, so someone asked, what is our favorite non-Star Trek sci-fi show?
Ooh, TV show?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, they said show. Yeah.
Babylon 5.
Ooh, that's a good one.
As much as I liked Farscape, and I really did like Farscape, that got killed, and then they had to do a couple of things in order to have a satisfying ending to it, which was fine. And Babylon 5 isn't perfect, but I liked that it was talking about bigger things. It was more of an epic on a shoestring budget, which I really admire. I didn't really get into Battlestar Galactica. I mean, I started watching it and then I kind of drifted off like I do most other things.
Same
And
here.
a lot of I tried to watch some of the things that are on Netflix, and I just couldn't get into like Altered Carbon. I tried to watch. I think I watched the first full season. I know there's another season out. I'm just not. I'm kind of drifted away from that. Do you have one?
Well, I would say the X-Files, if that
Oh, I should have guessed.
if that counts. Yeah, the X-Files.
Talk about something that just goes nowhere.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. The X-Files is a great example of a show that pretty much everything other than their ongoing storylines was great. I mean, the Monster of the Week episodes are some of my favorite TV episodes of anything ever. The saga, the like alien invasion stuff that they dragged out forever, that eventually got to the point where you're just like, oh Jesus, just fucking wrap this up, you know. But yeah, I would say X-Files. I like Babylon 5 too, but Babylon 5 I watched when it was originally on, and I haven't gone back to it. Like I have gone back. Liked it
several times.
Yeah, I really liked it, but I just didn't. You know, I do want to go back to it at some point.
We should do, instead of just going to TNG, we should just do one where we're two low-ranking people on the Babylon 5s.
We should go to Babylon 5.
Then I could break out my spot-on Ambassador Malari.
Oh, wow. You have a Harry Mudd and a Malari.
Of course I do. I have some of the most obscure impressions of anyone ever.
Give us a little. Give us a Jakar.
I'm more with it. Let's see if I can do it on spot. Let's see. Well, I did it on our late seating show.
Yeah, you did.
Well, Mr. Garibaldi. I can't do it. Yes. I can't do it. You're making me perform cold.
What's the one where he tells the guy that he poisoned him? He's like, when you introduce the second part of the poison, they have a little party in your cardiovascular system.
I haven't watched it in like a year and a half. So let's see. You put me on the spot because I need to find the voice. Well, Mr. Garibaldi. No, can't do it. Yeah. I have to. I have to. It needs to be fresh in my ears.
Played by Peter Jurassic, who also guest starred in a really memorable early episode of MacGyver. So
Jesus Christ.
Well, now that we've bookended the MacGyver references, I think
that's great.
I think we should wrap up.
Thank you guys for asking all the great questions and indulging Steve and. Where I'm so glad we didn't break into an even longer MacGyver discussion like we do pre and post shows most of the time.
Join us for our MacGyver live stream next week.
Fine, maybe we'll just make a podcast about MacGyver.
It's just me talking about MacGyver and you occasionally interrupting. I don't even remember. I didn't really watch it. I'm sorry.
Oh, he made the thing.
That's what we would call the show.
Oh, he made the thing.
Oh, he made the thing.
There's thing. Okay, guys, we're not doing a MacGyver cast. No, we're not doing an X-Files, though. Thank Christ. Oh, boy. I think I'd rather do a Space 1999 podcast before we did that.
Well, at least that will be over pretty quick. They only did 1 year of that. People didn't like that.
Oh
no,
boy.
But that was one of those shows that just vanished into the black hole of Fox.
Well, yeah.
They're like,
well, it was made in Britain. It was a British TV show. Terry Anderson did it. Jerry Anderson. He's the same guy who did like Captain Scarlet and the Thunderbirds and things like that.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So it never really made it out here.
Yeah, and that was
ITC.
Yeah, and Martin Landau, right?
Yeah, Martin Landau, some lady, some guy.
And the moon was knocked out of orbit.
The moon is knocked out of orbit and drifting through space.
Yeah.
And they meet goopy monsters and stuff.
Oh, shit.
What? It's a solid sci-fi premise.
That's the show, yeah. I mean, that was Lost in Space.
Yeah, I watched a little. I've been watching Lost in Space on Netflix. I like to call it not so Lost in Space because there's lots of people around and they seem to know where they are.
A point in space that we're pretty sure we know where it's at. Yeah.
And I'm tired of them teasing Robot. That's the only reason we watch the show is for Robot. But,
Give me Robot.
That's the things that I watch is because, there's a robot in it. I'll watch it. I don't care how shitty it is.
You're like, you fast forward through scenes of Forbidden Planet just to get to the fucking...
Just to get the robot, yeah. Mm-hmm.
There he is. Back it up.
Anything can be improved with a robot.
Hey, put robots in everything, I say.
Why is it always someone gets pregnant or someone has a child to save a series? Why can't it be, and then there's a robot?
They add a robot.
Right. That's the official time when the series jumps the shark. Remember when Cheers got that robot?
They should have just said Woody Harrelson was a robot.
Yeah, they should have. He was a cyborg.
Yeah. Like 5 seasons into it.
Yeah.
And it's like everybody knew all along, but they just never mentioned it. Exactly.
If you guys want to know what our conversations are like,
it's just like this.
You can track the nerd as it just keeps... we keep going in these left and these hairpin turns.
That's why we record shows that are usually about 90 minutes and about 45 minutes respectively, and it takes us 4 hours sometimes.
We will be here. I think the longest we ever sat down was like 7 hours.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And we have these tiny little shows, and the rest of the time it's either talking about nerd shit.
Yeah.
I don't think usually it's talking about nerd shit.
Yeah.
Or he has an inevitable breakdown. And then I have to like talk him down or whatever. He's like, all of this is garbage. Why do I do this?
I can't do this YouTube shit anymore. I can't do it. I can't do it.
I'm just going to become a poultry farmer. Oh, can't you see it? Steve Shives, poultry farmer.
I'm going to turn off comments on everything. I don't care. I'm going to turn off comments on everything. I don't care if it tanks my views. I don't care.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
All right. So no more questions?
No more. I think everybody's just patiently waiting for us to stop. So
just shut up. All right.
You said you were going to wrap it up half an hour ago.
Yeah, we're going to wrap it up. Hey, guys, thank you so much for making season 2 such a success. Yes. It is the most popular show we're doing. Please, we don't advertise this show. It's not like you're going to hear us as a lead into some other podcast somewhere. So if you know people who like Star Trek, please recommend the show to them. We're largely by word of mouth. There have been some very nice people that we don't know who's written reviews for the show somewhere out there on the internet, which is also very nice. Thanks, you guys, for listening in and listening to 2 Star Trek jackasses just have fun. And I'm glad you guys are having fun with it too.
Yeah.
So thank you sincerely.
They can't overstate how much fun it is for us to make this show. And it's so nice to have people listen to it.
It makes it more fun to know that people appreciate it.
Yeah.
Because it is a lot of hard work.
Yeah. Especially for you.
Primarily for me.
Because I don't do anything.
Steve shows up.
I show up and I sit in. I literally do what I've been doing for this live stream.
And if I'm lucky, he's
slightly
sober.
more focused. All right, I'm ready. We're doing the movie one first.
See, my name's Captain Dinkldank. It's improv, right?
We did. I'm going to change my character name. Admiral Joe.
Is it okay if I just cry in the microphone and you improvise around me for about an hour?
Sorry, I'm working through some personal stuff. I just got to get this out. Just go ahead and record. So my mother never really loved me. Never really had a close relationship.
Now make that funny, asshole.
Yeah. It's funny. He has a bad relationship with his mom. Yeah, fucking parasites.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
We're friends.
Oh yes. And as I think and you can see that.
Yeah.
All right. Now we're gonna end the show and say really, really awful shit to each other that we would never say in public.
No, we won't.
No, we're surprised.
We know how we feel about each other already. Don't make us say it. Because then it's known and permanent.
Yeah, you need to give, like It's like you don't want to destroy it like they did Moonlighting.
I mean, yeah, exactly. Steve doesn't need to know that I would willingly kill his wife and live with him. He doesn't need to know that.
Wait, what?
Nothing. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for watching. See you in season 3.
Yeah, yay! How long do we have to smile?